clever part. The conversation.
The omasum is the third compartment of a cow's stomach. That's where a cow will store the water drained out of its food. But I still have all of my water inside of me.
Hello, and welcome to the Kongversation. I'm Hyle Russell, and we've got yet one more first-time co-host with us today. Please welcome to the show, YouTube creator and Nintendo superfan, KotBox, aka Miles.
Hello! Happy to be here, Hyle.
Happy to have you
why
here.
I said that like I was on Jerry Springer or something like that. Like, oh, thanks for giving me on the show.
No, look, Jerry Springer, 90s nostalgia, it's all entwined today. And before we start, happy birthday. It's your birthday today.
Yes, and what better way to celebrate my birthday than talking in depth about all the monkey madness that we've gotten from this game.
Yeah, it's, so I reached out to you a while ago and asked you, hey, have you actually played the Donkey Kong Bananza DLC? Because I would love to have you on for one of these Bananza episodes, and we're kind of getting towards the end. Would you like to discuss the DK Island DLC? And you actually hadn't played it yet.
Yeah, I felt so bad because I was like, Hyle's asking me to be on the show. This is such a big thing. Oh God, I haven't touched that at all. But I did scramble and put a fire in my soul to go launch it up and really dig into it. And I ended up getting pretty lost in it, which was a good time, but there's plenty of time to dig into that.
Yes. So, and it's funny then, so we were trying to figure out when to record it, and I originally pitched, we'll record it on Friday, November 21st, and I was completely spacing that was the day I was celebrating my birthday, which is November 22nd. And I was like, oh shit. So then I was like, can you do it on Wednesday? And you said, well, that's my birthday. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. All these November Donkey Kong fans, all of these Donkey Kong babies, all having birthdays around the release date of all the classic 90s Donkey Kong games.
Well, of course. Well, my fun little fact that I learned is roughly 9 months before November is Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm. I was a month
everyone
premature.
was probably busy.
I was a month premature, so
I.
That's my out.
Hey, I was also a month premature.
Yeah, okay. I think it's just because I really wanted to be born on an anniversary of a Donkey Kong game. I somehow knew ahead of time, and that's why I just forced my way out on November 22nd. And then I realized after the fact that that's also the anniversary of when Kennedy was shot. So it's
great.
So fun. Yeah. If he shoots you, it's gonna hurt. And that has been true of every November 22nd since.
Yeah, I think it's wild that they put the grassy knoll in DK Island, but we'll break that apart when we get there.
It's so grassy. There's so much vegetation now. I love it. But yes, we're almost done with Season 13's Donkey Kong Bananza coverage. It has been a long, long road full of long episodes. We've just got this episode on the DK Island DLC, and then one more before the end of the year on Emerald Rush. And I know some of you are probably rolling your eyes, thinking I'm milking this. Why the hell am I splitting them across two parts? There's not that much to discuss. It's very superficial DLC. It's not worth the price. Gripe. Look, it's because I have a lot of thoughts on how Donkey Kong Island is portrayed in this game. I mean, a lot of thoughts. And it's all mostly independent from Emerald Rush, which is a mode I've really gotten into. I really enjoy Emerald Rush, but they almost require two separate trains of thought. Emerald Rush is very kinetic. It's very gameplay focused. It's about coming up with strategies and speed and efficiency and, well, sheer dumb luck sometimes. And trying to marry that with the more lackadaisical Donkey Kong Island navel gazing, it almost felt incompatible. And so I thought, yeah, let's split these episodes.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Because, like you said, part of you wants to flip out a chair, lie on the beach of Donkey Kong Island and take in the sun. And the other one is just, okay, I got a Bananza thing and I got to do this and then I got to grab one of these. But did I get the thing? I think I got a plus on the bananas.
Right. It's like, oh no, I really need to get some crocoids quick because that's what I really maxed out my perks in. And oh no, I'm not going to meet the quota in time. It's like, for me, I really love Emerald Rush, and it's really kind of a whole new way to experience the worlds of Bananza. But I needed to spend some time just appreciating Donkey Kong Island, because I've been hearing some shit. I've been hearing some shit talking about this DLC and about Donkey Kong Island. And for me, personally speaking, I feel like DK Island is just this lovely little coda to Donkey Kong Bananza, which has just been, what a treat. What a treat Donkey Kong Bananza has been this year. And, all of these concerns going into Bananza, will it respect the history of the series? Is it going to just completely reinvent Donkey Kong from the ground up yet again? And all of that slowly washing away as you get through Bananza, and then to get to the DLC, which returns the series to its home base after this wild game that did introduce so many new concepts. This DLC reestablishes the primary locale, and it also strengthens that setting to the rest of Donkey Kong Bananza and everything that has come before it in this game. And I think it sets up the future of not only the series, but also, as we're finding out with these Emerald Rush events, Bananza as an enduring experience that will keep going for the foreseeable future. So, my opinion, if the battle with King K. Rool was the climax of the story, and the post-game was the epilogue, then the DLC is kind of the Tolkien appendices of the game, sort of this additional content that lets us know the adventure never really ends for Donkey Kong and his friends and family. The world continues to go on and on and on, both within and beyond Bananza's borders. And I think that's really lovely, and I think it's completely worth the price, and I think everybody's going to disagree with me, and I don't care, because I'm the Donkey Kong sicko, I'm the weirdo, that's fine.
Hey, we all have our part to play in that. Initially that's something that slowed me down, was looking at the price going, $20, I don't know. I still bought it immediately as it came out. And when I finally booted it up, and the moment I landed on DK Island, I stood there for just a solid 5 minutes and was like, yeah, this is worth the admission price.
Yeah, I think we're of like minds. I think a lot of people listening to this will be of like minds. I think there's still going to be naysayers, but maybe we can persuade some people to reframe their way of thinking about this. And if not, that's fine. We all have our things. We all have our preferences, we all have our fetishes, and so this is just the way it is. We're not always going to be in complete agreement, but I think this DLC should have been way more expensive than it was. All right? I think this should have been $200 at the very least, because it's worth that much to me, damn it.
They should have made you buy a Switch 3 for it, actually. They were going to build a separate device exclusively, like a banana-shaped Switch 2.
Yeah.
Just to play the DLC.
That would have been great. So this episode, we're kicking back. We're coming home. We're revisiting Donkey Kong Island in a 3D space, coming at the very end of Donkey Kong's latest, second 3D adventure. But before we start, welcome everybody. Donkey Kong Country 2. Yes, the 30th anniversary of Donkey Kong Country 2. We're living it. We're currently in the middle of it. Because as I've said, Donkey Kong Country 2 is kind of a staggered worldwide release. Little trivia fact that's kind of been forgotten about. Released across most of the world, November 20th and November 21st. Released in the US 2 weeks later, December 5th, roughly. There was a weird, 14-day delay in the US for reasons which I might get into or hypothesize about on our 30th anniversary episode for that game. But we will be doing several episodes about Donkey Kong Country 2 for its 30th anniversary. The Emerald Rush episode will wait a couple of weeks. It'll come before the end of the season, but we will be devoting a lot of time and energy towards celebrating DKC 2. So I've got some fun episodes lined up for that. I can't wait to talk about something else besides Bananza. So yeah, don't worry. We are acknowledging Donkey Kong Country 2. And we're really going to have fun with it this year, especially because I feel like Bananza has reframed DKC 2 in so many ways and has really just made me appreciate it all the more, which is wild to say that my second favorite game of all time, which is now Donkey Kong Bananza, has reaffirmed my faith in my first and favorite game of all time, which is Donkey Kong Country 2. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting 30th anniversary for DKC2, especially compared to last year's 30th for Donkey Kong Country, which was a whole lot of, well, it seems like Nintendo has big plans for Donkey Kong. Hope this actually pays off. And now everything is out in the open, and we can say, oh yeah, Nintendo did have big plans for Donkey Kong, and they still do. And hey, let's talk about Donkey Kong Country 2 and have a good time.
It's so strange being in a post-thumb twiddling world with Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Especially now in past the post game into DLC of staring into the future going, it feels so much more open now. Like you talked about how Bananza didn't just put Donkey Kong back on the map. It flourished it in all these different directions.
Right. Celebrating so many aspects of its past while also forging a new path for the future. And it's so nice not having to be that floppy-haired, sweaty weirdo who's sitting in the corner saying, no, Nintendo has plans for Donkey Kong. You'll see. And every passing year, you seem a little bit more unhinged. And you're like, no, look at the theme park. No, they're going to do a Donkey Kong movie. I swear, they're going to do a Donkey Kong movie. And now nobody's questioning this anymore. And so we can really just relax and enjoy this new era for the series while also being content and placated that nothing is being disregarded. Nothing is being abandoned from the series. And in fact, things are being celebrated in a way that we are entirely unaccustomed to as fans. Even in this episode, we are discussing some wild DKC2 references that I never thought we would see in a Nintendo game in the 2020s.
Yeah, there are at least a handful of things where I would just take a glance or read a little perk of information and be like, I know that. I recognize that. It's like awakening ancient memories in my mind.
Yeah, just staring at something and thinking, I'm not actually seeing that. This is my brain making me think I'm seeing this. But that's not a reference. Oh my God, that is a reference. Oh my God, they're actually putting that in the game? That's actually something they designed and plunked down there? This serves no purpose other than exciting me.
Yeah. Somebody sat down at a table and went, I know 7 people who are going to look at that and they're going to freak out. And those are the kind of people we need making our Donkey Kong games.
Yeah, I know. This is what I've always wanted since the buyout, since 2002. I have longed for this. So yeah, it's great to see. But thank you to all of our patrons who have stuck with us, even through the uncertain times. DKVine.com/Patreon, Patreon.com/DKVine. However you want to get there. Think about becoming a DKVine patron. Support us for at least $1 a month, maybe more if you're feeling frisky, if $19.99 for Donkey Kong DLC does not seem like it's too costly. And I want to say hello to all of the people in our live stream, because we do live stream these episodes for our $5 and up patrons. Once again, we have Traveler of the Stars, we have recent co-host Just Andre, Chocolate Milk Drinker, Claire, Java, March Rose, Freezer is in there, who is complaining that we haven't done the 20th anniversary episode for Banjo Pilot yet. Yeah, I know. You know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry that Donkey Kong had a new game and we couldn't spend 4 months talking about Banjo Pilot. Eventually the news is going to slow down and we'll have some time. We'll have some wiggle room to discuss that rotten game.
Finally, I've been waiting on more news for Redneck Kong for years now.
Sadly, there's no Redneck Kong content in the DK Island DLC.
If you squint hard enough, put DK in the right outfit, you never know. He's got the overalls.
Just Andre says, in the year on September 12th came at last the passing of King Donkey. It is said that the beds of Diddy and Dixie were set beside the bed of the great king. Then Trough built a gray ship in gloomy Galleon and sailed down coral capers and so oversea. And with him, it is said, went Professor Chops. And when that ship passed, an end was come in the rare archipelago of the DK crew. Just Andre spent a lot of time concocting that after I mentioned the Tolkien appendices and I wanted to read it. So
I really like that. Just Andre, if you will, maybe we should just start making that a prayer at the beginning of every episode. Can I get that in like a plaque for my office?
I do think whenever Donkey Kong finally ends, it does need to have Annie Lennox's Into the West playing over the end credits. So anyway, Miles, aka KotBox. I'm going to call you Miles because calling you KotBox is weird.
Yeah, I've always had a weird aversion to being addressed by like, my online tag, gamer tag, whatever you want to call it. Because so many people just call me Kot, which I don't know. Something about that I'm like, that feels wrong. I'm Miles. I don't know. I've always been Miles.
Yeah, I run into it occasionally. People call me DK Vine because they don't know like my name. Yeah, and generally speaking, social media, like I'm not on social media. I just run the DK Vine accounts, and so there is just this general like identity of Mr. DK Vine, even though DK Vine is a collective of people, and I'm just the editor-in-chief of the website. But people call me DK Vine, and I'm like, okay, that's not my name, but sure. So I completely get that. But what do you got going on in your world recently?
A bit of a creative restructure. I have recently remodeled my office to adjust my shooting space. I've been on a little bit of a video hiatus lately on YouTube while I've been getting plans ready. But the goal is to leap into 2026, jumping into some bigger projects and having a little bit more of a consistent release schedule, which I realize all these terms make me sound like I'm some boring businessman. I'm some guy sitting in his apartment, realistically. But after the booming success of a Wii U video and the pretty good success of a 3DS video, I'm spiraling on what console is going to be the next big focus for me to break down.
May I suggest, and this will not in any way contribute to views or subscribers, but the Virtual Boy, because we got this big Virtual Boy release coming out early 2026.
Oh, that's the excuse I need to buy one of those.
No, don't take my advice. That's the wrong path to take. It'll lead you to ruin.
I take your advice and it ended me up here. So far, so good, I think. Plus, it's, I won't harp on it, but like, I could easily go on for a solid hour and a half just about Virtual Boy Wario Land. I got a whole soapbox about how that game deserves so much more.
I would argue that. I would argue Galactic Pinball. There are a few underrated gems for the Virtual Boy, which is why I'm really excited about it coming to the Virtual Console, and really excited about maybe people actually giving some of these a shot rather than just falling back on the memes and the broad assumptions about the Virtual Boy. And maybe I'll have you back. Maybe because I'm looking for an excuse to do a Virtual Boy episode early 2026. How I tie that into Donkey Kong or the DKU or Rare, I will have to really get creative with it, but I really like the Virtual Boy, even though I recognize its deficiencies as a format. And like, I'm not so blind because I play Virtual Boy too much that I can't see, where it went wrong, why it was probably not the greatest thing to invest in, but I still have a lot of unabashed love for it. And so, yeah, I'm excited about it coming to Virtual Console, and you better believe I'm buying the headset.
Absolutely. But there's a charm to consoles, especially to me, for consoles that didn't hit the high success, or like the ones that kind of didn't get their true chance to shine, even if it is the company's fault or the developer's fault or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I like shining a light on the smaller stuff. It's why I made the big speak piece about the Wii U, because it is a lot of Nintendo's fault for that thing struggling the way that it did. And then things just got out of hand, but it's a great device. I think all game consoles deserve a chance to get their time in the spotlight, whether they're legendary or not.
Yeah. I think it's very easy for people to dismiss something because then they don't have the FOMO. They don't have this pressing need to get it. So it's easier to tear it down, especially when it comes to video games and video game consoles, which can be on the pricier side. So it's far easier to say, I don't need that. Haha, let's all laugh at it, rather than it is saying, ooh, I wish I could have one of those. So I am curious to see what this does for the Virtual Boy's reputation. And I can't believe Nintendo is acknowledging the Virtual Boy and acknowledging the library in a positive way again. And just like I can't imagine they're referencing all of this Donkey Kong stuff in Bananza and specifically the DLC. It's a wild time to be a fan of Nintendo circa 1995.
It is, which, count me in on that. It's the thing where, we went through this era of what I like to call reference porn in a lot of our pop culture, but to a point where it wasn't just, hey, remember the thing? It was a lot of, making fun of what the thing used to be, going, haha, that's how we did it back then because we didn't know any better.
Right.
Where now, especially Bananza is, the key of it, it brings these things and it goes, this may not always be the most important thing, but it's part of it. It's important that it's part of it, and we love it.
Yeah. And I would also point out that Donkey Kong has not had this level of reference porn really ever, but especially since the buyout, it has been a long struggle to even get the most base level things acknowledged again. And so, yeah, is DK Island reference porn? Well, we'll get into it on this episode, but be sure you subscribe to KotBox on YouTube. Get ready for all of those new videos coming next year. All right. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Hang on, I'm gonna get hydrated. Okay, I'm ready.
So, Donkey Kong Island. So, you just played this DLC.
Yes.
And I started the DLC about a month after it was released. It was released in September. I didn't start it until October. I actually didn't even install it until the day after I beat the post game. I wanted to 100% complete Donkey Kong Bananza as just a base game. And then I wanted to install the DLC. And for whatever reason, that was the way I had to do it in my head. So even though I was very tempted the day of to purchase the DLC because, yay, Donkey Kong, I was like, no, I'm going to hold out. I'm going to wait. I'm going to play Bananza in my very thorough, slow fashion and just get every last drop I can out of it before I even move on to the DLC, or even like have my game acknowledge that the DLC exists. So that's the way I did it. So it's kind of a treat for me to finish the post game and then know I had the DLC the very next day.
See, I envy your ability to really like take your time and dig into a game like that. Especially my worst habit with any game is I get right near the end and then I just sort of barrel down and blast through it because I'm just so excited to experience all of it and have it all happen. And then I burn myself out because I go way too hard. Like I'm mostly done with Bananza. I have a handful more of Bananiums to snag still. But it's just because as soon as I think from like the racing layer onward, seeing like Diddy and Dixie, and I was like, I gotta get to the end of the game. It was just this like fire in my heart. And so when the DLC got shown off, I was like, oh man, yes, more for this game. I was excited about it. I was excited about the island. I bought it. And then I just sat there and I didn't do anything. I didn't launch it. I didn't even touch my Switch 2 for a while. I don't even remember what I was doing. I guess it's been 2 months. Somehow.
Yeah, somehow. Yeah, for me, like, I don't play many video games. I mean, as I've said before on the podcast, I really just exclusively play DKU games, and then I don't have other interests outside of video games. So, like, having a game of the caliber and size of Bananza is special and unique. So I wanted to get the most out of it as I possibly could. And it was just kind of like savoring it and be like, okay, that's enough for today. I don't want to overindulge. I don't want to get through this game and then not have it anymore, you know? So, of course, then by the time I did install the DLC, I also learned that there were going to be the Emerald Rush events, the time-limited events that would be, you know, held like on a monthly or per monthly basis in Bananza. And then it was just like, well, now, you know, I've got to get to the DLC. So that did give me a final little push to get through the last of the post game. But yeah, I installed the DLC and I had about a week to get acquainted with it and Emerald Rush before starting the Chip Fever event. And I'll discuss more about that when we do the Emerald Rush episode. But yeah, I had a good solid maybe 6 days to get familiar with everything and to really just soak in DK Island. So yeah, the day after the post game, I purchased it, I installed it, started up Bananza, and I didn't know what to expect because, you know, I was like, how are they even going to introduce the DLC to the Bananza itself? Like, in the context of the game, how is this going to even come up? And so I just beaten the game, so I started back up in the Heart of Gold, you know, with the Banandium root and the Great Harmonial there, and nothing had changed. And I was a little curious, and I went to the in-game menu, you know, for all the, you know, Banandium gems and fossils, and I didn't see any DK Island listed on there, so I was like, did something go wrong with the download? Did I actually get it installed? But then I decided, you know, maybe I have to go to the Warp Gong. Maybe I have to initiate something within the story itself. So I went back to the Planet Core's Warp Gong, punched it, and sure enough, jump scare, there's a surprise dialogue from the Mama Elevator who pops up and asks a favor of you. And she says, sorry, dears, but may I have a moment? I have distressing news. That wicked brute who brainwashed my husband is back. I saw him staking a claim on DK Island, of all places. Such a pest. So I thought it was interesting to learn that the Mama Elevator knows of DK Island and knows enough that she could either see or sense that Void Kong had retreated there.
That was something that caught with me. It's funny enough, when I first got that dialogue and she was like, "Oh, I have distressing news. Something is happening." For some reason, I really didn't put two and two together, and I was like, no, I missed an event. No, I want to go to the DLC right now. I thought she was going to like send me to do another quest. And then she mentioned DK Island, and I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
But the fact that, you know, she so flippantly goes, "Oh, well, yeah, DK Island, of course, obviously." How long have the Elevator clan like been around at this point?
Right. Yeah.
So are we thinking that they have been crawling through the depths of the planet for our whole timeline, through the depths of the entire Chromosphere?
I think it's quite possible that, you know, legends of Mongolian sandworms, you know, like all of that could be sightings of elevators throughout the ages. And maybe, you know, they have a far greater understanding of the entire planet than anybody else in the underground world, considering they burrow straight through it. They feel vibrations and they sense things far and wide. So more than the fractones, I would say the elevators probably have a good wide knowledge base of everything, everywhere.
I like the idea that you mentioned with the vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
Like the idea that they don't have to see these places necessarily, but something could shift, some of the rock could move, which it's the whole point of how much of the world is shifting and changing in Bananza. So even just the tiniest change at DK Island, like where Void Kong pops up, and she's like, "That ain't right." There's a little twitch in my left. Left what? I don't know what an eel has.
Yeah, and just like knowing Void's like breathing patterns or like his, you know, very unique heartbeat or something, and you're just like, I sense Void has gone here. And you know, I don't know if the Mama Elevator is like saying, "Donkey Kong, I want you to go finish the job. He's alive. I need you to assassinate him." But I think that's what it's implying. It's like 2D at the end of Banjo-Kazooie saying, "Hey, Gruntilda is still drawing breath, Banjo. You didn't finish the job." And there's this like unspoken bloodlust there. But yeah, you then see the like elevator map of all the layers, and then it shifts slightly. It shifts to the right, and eagle-eyed gamers would have seen Donkey Kong Island on this map, you know, in the periphery very quickly. We ran a news story about it before the game even launched. It's like, oh my god, Donkey Kong Island is actually on the map. And look, you can see the face of Donkey Kong on it. But this is the game actually drawing attention to it for the first time. And sure enough, it then shifts to Donkey Kong Island. We see DK Island now listed on the menu above Ingot Isle Cave-In. And the Mama Elevator says, "Oh, DK Island is your home, you say. I suppose that makes sense." It's funny that they draw attention to this, but they just kind of whistle past New Donk City entirely. You know?
Yeah. Well, I like that she's also like, "Oh, I guess that's your home. Interesting. I didn't think about that when, you know, 90% of it looks just like your face and has the same name as you."
So the Mama Elevator then says, "I could carry you both there if you so desire. Shall I carry you to DK Island?" And of course I said sure, because if I'm ever given that opportunity, whether it's in a video game or in some semblance of real life, I would say sure. And I would never say, "Nah, I don't want to go to Donkey Kong Island." You know, it's just, yeah, yes, take me there. But also, this does raise the question of, hold on, Mama Elevator. If you can take us all the way to Donkey Kong Island, How come you just could take Pauline back home? Back to New Donk City. Why did we have to go all the way to the
concrete they make the city with?
You
know, it's mostly like sand and beaches and stuff on Donkey Kong Island.
Mm-hmm.
You know, New Donk, they're using the, you know, new infrastructure. They just like passed a couple bills to rework the streets with fresh asphalt. That might just be a little difficult to get through. Or I don't know, maybe there's zoning laws where she can't go there.
Well, there is also another possibility, which we'll get into here, and it has to do with the warp gong. So, Donkey Kong Island, though, I should point out, has no sublayer classification. It's not even sublayer 0. It's just DK Island. I was wondering about this because I was like, you know, sublayer 10 is the Ingot Isle cave-in. If this is on the surface, is it going to be listed as sublayer 0? Or just no, it's not part of the underground world at all. It's just an island that you can go to on the surface. So it's like, okay, all right. But it's terrain strength 1. So maybe to speak to your point, yes, it's very easy to break through. But yeah, DK Island, you cut to it, and there it is. There's the island with the face, once again, on the front. And, I mean, so many great details, and we'll break down the different locations and how it relates to past games. But one of the things I really appreciated about it, and this is where my eye was immediately drawn, is into the mountains, into, like, where the volcano from Returns was, but Gorilla Glacier was in the original Donkey Kong Country. You've got some cloud cover. You've got like misty, kind of wispy clouds forming around them. And I just love that little touch because Donkey Kong Island in this game, it's similar in scope to the overworld from Donkey Kong 64. And because of that, this is more of a direct homage to Donkey Kong 64 than anything, although they add a lot of details from the country games as well. But Donkey Kong 64 had a ludicrously small version of Donkey Kong Island compared to what Donkey Kong Island must be, as evidenced by the country and land games. And our argument was that it should always be taken to be sort of a map screen, sort of a 3D map screen space in DK64. It's not actually to scale in that game because you couldn't portray it in scale, or else that would be the entire game, if not more, in Donkey Kong 64. And so I think this is the same thing. It's not really to scale. It's more of an overview than the full thing. And journeying across it is actually a far grander ordeal than we are perceiving it as we are playing it. But that being said, I would say this does a far better job at conveying a sense of scale, of a sense of a real place, than Donkey Kong 64's mostly barren overworld.
Yeah. Especially like those details you mentioned with the little clouds showing, like, you know, that peak looks up there, and obviously without the clouds it would look fine, but something about that gives that idea of, oh, that's like up there. Mm-hmm. Like there's this feeling when it drops you and you're staring directly at the giant DK head where you almost want to like crane your head back in awe.
Right. Yeah.
At the scale of this thing.
Yeah, it does a lot of effective tricks to kind of hide the scale and convince your brain there's more to it, especially the jungle. I was really impressed with how they pulled off the jungle and how I really felt like I was in this robust space, this lush forest, when it's really just very, very tiny, but it has a sense of place far greater than DK64. And that's not me, slagging on DK64. It had technical limitations. It was on the N64. It was from 1999, and Bananza can do way more with a similar setting. That being said, there were barely any trees on DK Island in DK64. It always felt like literally a desert island without any of the lush vegetation, without the, tropical plants and just like bounty of life that the Donkey Kong Country games suggested. So this was a wonderful do-over some 26 years later.
It was. It's interesting because I never really thought of it as super barren. I guess it also depends on how actively I think of DK64, but like when I think back on it, I'm picturing rocks and dirt and sand and more rocks.
Mm-hmm.
And there really is not a lot of greenery on that island outside of a few like textures and trees.
It was really It was really
Yeah, go
stark
ahead.
compared to Banjo-Kazooie, especially because Spiral Mountain, well, granted, Spiral Mountain is not trying to create a whole island environment. It's really just more of a countryside valley, but Spiral Mountain felt so robust and so bountiful. I mean, literally bountiful with the bouncing vegetables all around, but it was just so lush and colorful. And then Donkey Kong Island, a year later, it was just sand and rocks.
It was. Which I think that's part of what elicited such a response seeing this island for the first time properly. I will admit, the first Donkey Kong game I owned was Donkey Kong 64.
Mm-hmm.
As I didn't get to have a Super Nintendo. I had a friend who had one growing up. So my first Donkey Kong experience technically was DKC 3. And then getting into 2 and 1 and playing those. But DK64 was the first one where like it was mine. And especially when I was a younger kid, I would just run in circles in hub worlds. I loved hub worlds.
Yeah.
I would do nothing in them for hours. I think my cartridge of Banjo-Tooie has almost 300 hours logged in it because I would just run around the Isle of Hags doing absolutely nothing. So booting this up for the first time and jumping to DK Island, hearing such a beautiful rendition of that theme that has been ingrained in my brain for so long, and seeing it, not to be tropey about it, but it's they say, oh, this is what it looked like when I was a kid.
Yes,
and that's how it felt going to DK Island. I was like, I'm experiencing this for the first time, yet I've never felt more at home.
Yeah, I got here, and I knew Grant Kirkhope's DK Isles theme was going to be a part of this because they played it during the Nintendo Direct, but actually experiencing it, actually arriving here, getting spat out from the Mama Elevator, where the warp gong is located just off the shore of the island, and having that all wash over you. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't expect it to hit me. And yeah, I am, as I said, a Donkey Kong sicko. So I did expect to have some sort of reaction from this, but just that sense of homecoming and that idea that this is the way I always imagined it. If not playing Donkey Kong 64, then this is the expectation I had going into Donkey Kong 64. From playing the Donkey Kong Country games. Like, I didn't expect it to actually have that sizable of a response from me. And yeah, I was just like, oh, wow. And yeah, I just had to kind of stand there for a moment to take it in before I even dared approach the island. It's like, if I'm having this kind of reaction just from hearing the music and seeing it in the distance, what am I going to feel when I actually get there?
I know there's like that intimidation. I think I mentioned I stood there for, I think it was nearly 5 minutes, just listening to the music and like smiling so hard I thought my face was going to tear. And I've never felt more intimidated to pick up the controller and be like, I guess I'm going to go there now.
Right.
Like, I haven't been here in decades.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, there's so much to actually discuss when we get there. And of course, the Gangplank Galleon wreckage was right to the left. And I was like, no, I don't dare go to the Gangplank Galleon yet. I'm saving that for the last. I don't want to actually explore it yet because, like, where do I go? I'm like a kid at Christmas with all the presents before him. And I I just like don't want the moment of anticipation to end.
Exactly. It's that final breath you take before you're like, okay, I'm going to take it all in. I will admit, the first thing I did was go to Gangplank Galleon because I was like, oh, it's Donkey Kong Island, wow. And I was like, oh, it's and then I freaked out. I went over there and I was just like, punching and breaking it into pieces, just like having the time of my life. I think I actually needed that to like blow off a little bit of the excitement and like temper myself and then be like, okay, I'm ready for the island now. All right, let's do it. To like give myself a primer.
So, really quick, just addressing nerdy minutia. Why is there a warp gong on DK Island? Well, we don't really know, but there are possibilities. So several fractones have also begun residing on Donkey Kong Island before Donkey Kong and Pauline even get there. So, it's possible the Mama Elevator burrowed all the way to the surface and brought a warp gong there for DK and Pauline to travel easily back and forth to the underground world. But it's also possible the fractones, we do know a couple fractones, hitched a ride with Void Kong when he left the underground world. So it's possible that even more fractones hitched a ride with them. And then they decided to just set up shop on DK Island when they got there, setting up several devices, accoutrements on DK Island to help connect it back to the underground world, such as an authentic warp gong. So, yeah, it's really more of a don't worry about it, but I worry about it. So there are plausible reasons for the warp gong existing there, and it does, provide a handy permanent connection between DK Island and the underground world for future games, for future crossovers and character appearances. So at the very least, they're future-proofing the Donkey Kong series here by putting a warp gong on Donkey Kong Island.
Which I love. I very much agree with the idea of it coming from the fractones. I have come to love them because they are the most true neutral that I think I've ever experienced in a game. They just are.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be shocked. The ones that just ride up with Void Kong, they look around and they're like, yep, I like it here. I want to come back here.
Yeah.
I see DK and Pauline being like, oh, and they said the fractones, they even made it so we could go here. And they were so like, oh, and they were checking it. And the fractones are just like, sure, this is a new spot. I want to come back here whenever I want. I don't really care. Go put a door over there.
Yeah. We're going to put two DJ booths here so we can dance. And we're going to live here for maybe a few centuries. We'll go back to the underground world eventually, but we're content. We're whatever.
I like the priority of just a couple DJ booths. They're like, we love it here. Let's party a little while. Like, everywhere they show up, they're just like, we just need a little corner to party in, and then we're good for like a couple centuries.
Yeah. You do get a new disc, speaking of the DJ booths, as soon as you arrive, called DK Island Daytime. And I was like, wait, daytime? Does that mean we're going to come here at night too? And that wouldn't really be explained until after you play Emerald Rush a bit, which we're not really going to get into in this episode, but that does pay off a little bit in a lovely kind of surprise. But yeah, I love this rendition of Grant Kirkhope's DK Isles theme.
It's like a contender for my favorite track in Bananza. And that's tough because it is a callback track, but they do such a good job in this game, with just in general with its soundtrack of a lot of the music will follow the same motifs and melodies, but there's always these, each time like we get past, I guess a verse for lack of a better term, it'll like shift up the tone a bit or the instruments just a little bit and makes it so it never feels like you're just listening to the same minute on loop. Like there's all these little variations and they did it perfectly.
Yeah, there's also like the song itself doesn't change, but depending on which location on the island you're standing, you'll get sound effects, or they will kind of like muffle it or change the volume depending. It's the old Banjo-Kazooie trick, but it really does make it feel like it is a varied, living kind of song, almost emanating from the island itself.
Well, I mean, we do have 2 big DJ stations.
Well,
so.
yes, there is that in-universe explanation as well, but I'm more thinking about like when you go into the mines or the like interior caverns or even in the jungle itself, and you do have this kind of vibe shift, this aesthetical audio difference or variation from what it might sound like when you're on the beach or up by the treehouse.
You can hear like a little bit of extra tree rustling in the forest, like those little drips of water and that like faint echo in the caves.
Yeah. It
just makes walking around this island an experience in and of itself, just to navigate and spend time soaking in the environment.
And it is so great to have this song in particular revived in such a prominent way. I know Grant Kirkhope, when he did the score for Donkey Kong Adventure in Mario Plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, of course he revived this song, and it felt like him kind of staking a claim. It's like, well, if I'm going to do Donkey Kong music, I'm going to do my Donkey Kong music, which, yeah, fair play. I mean, that makes sense, just like David Wise referenced David Wise music doing it for Tropical Freeze. But this song, in particular, I feel like is Grant Kirkhope's strongest Donkey Kong track, and it is as good as some of the David Wise classics from back on the Super Nintendo. And to have it elevated into the pantheon of like top tier Donkey Kong tracks, it's long overdue.
Yeah, I do feel a lot of DK64's soundtrack gets overlooked, and that's no shade to Kirkhope because I love his music, but you know, a lot of people were looking for that taste of David Wise, and I think the island theme, while being so inherently and truly a Kirkhope song with the way he builds the beat, is the closest he got to having sort of that same flavor palette as what Wise did. And like you said, it deserves its place among all of these other iconic, like Aquatic Ambience and Sticker Brush Symphony, where it's like a legendary tune.
And I think it's probably the best song to summarize Donkey Kong Island itself. Like, much more so than the map screen from Donkey Kong Country and Donkey Kong Country Returns. I would say, like, this is the quintessential track for Donkey Kong Island. So having it here in the DLC, having it here for this world in Bananza, I think really does seal that deal for me and makes it official. And yeah, it's wonderful. And like you said, it's the one Kirkhope track that really does kind of blend his own style into what we associate as the Donkey Kong sound. More so than, just like most of DK64, falling in the shadow of Banjo-Kazooie.
Which, like, I do think a lot of the tracks from 64 would have felt right at home in another Banjo game, outside of the ones that are, you know, the Simian Segway stuff or things like that. But yeah, there is something special about this track.
Yeah.
Where I could swear that it was in other Donkey Kong games before 64 just because it felt right.
Yeah, and as I said before about Bananza, just playing the base game, it surprised me and delighted me how much it did embrace Donkey Kong 64 and how much Bananza actually positioned itself as a straight sequel to DK64 in a lot of ways. Like, hey, here's the next 3D Donkey Kong game, 25 and a half years late, but here it is. And it didn't shy away from DK64. It didn't act embarrassed that DK64 existed before it. You know, all the criticisms of DK64 notwithstanding, it had a lot of fans. And Bananza says, hell yeah, I'm a sequel to Donkey Kong 64. And nowhere is that more clear than when you finally get to the DLC and you finally explore Donkey Kong Island, and it's just like, yeah, this is a true successor to that game.
Mm-hmm. It pulls the spirit so hard. It's what I talked about with like the reference bait and stuff earlier, is like every piece that shows up is them going, not just going, look at this, look at this, look at this. It's we're fans of this too. We know you are. We love this. It's all part of the history. You know, there's no reason to go back and erase DK64 or try to hide it or kick it under the rug, because a lot of people wanted to do for a long time. It's a part of it. It's got some really shining moments, and it has taken as much of those as it can and put them in this game.
Yeah. Just like the Virtual Boy is nothing to hide from.
Exactly.
DK64, you got to embrace the full history, because there are fans out there. There are fans of all of this, and you got to reach them. You're not reaching everybody if you're ignoring part of your history. So
Exactly. There you go. Donkey Kong 64, the Virtual Boy of Donkey Kong games. Slap that right on there. That'll sell like hotcakes.
I also really appreciate, though, that Pauline will have this one-time dialogue as you begin exploring different areas of Donkey Kong Island. She'll just have all this commentary. And this was in the trailer for the Nintendo Direct as well. But I love that Pauline says, "This is where you're from, DK? This island is beautiful." Which is, yeah, that's the reaction to have, because it is beautiful. And especially this girl who's only lived in this major metropolis all of her life and then had this ridiculous adventure in the underground world. Like, this is probably her first time being on a tropical island on the surface. And it's like this ludicrous tropical island that just towers into the clouds, and it has a gorilla head, in the mountains. And it would just seem like finding this utopia, this paradise that's been hidden from the outside world.
I do wonder, what her impact is seeing the giant DK head carved into the side. It's like, I picture, if my wife was like, "Oh, here, let me show you where I grew up," and it was just like a giant stone bust of her head with a little door on the mouth or something like that. It'd be a mixture of, that's impressive, but did you do that? Was that your call? Or
I mean, it's possible too she doesn't even perceive the giant Donkey Kong head, because that was something that in the original game, in the original Donkey Kong Country, a lot of people didn't notice it at first. It was kind of this thing where a lot of people only first realized it was there when they got to the fight with K. Rool at the end and they saw the island in the distance, and that kind of put it into perspective. And you're like, "Oh, wait, there's a face on the island?" So yeah, maybe she's just not putting it together, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, that's a weird Kirby shaped little mountain up top there," not realizing that it's supposed to be the spit curl.
Yeah, she's too absorbed in the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Look at the mountains. Look at those trees. I don't know what that ugly rock is over there, DK. That one's kind of weird looking, but the rest of this.
So yeah, you get to the shore of the main island, and the first checkpoint, which are tuning forks. Tuning forks are here. It's called Squawk's Hut. And yep, Squawks. If you didn't know, Squawks is in the DLC. Squawks finally gets his due. One of the biggest question marks about Bananza in the pre-release was, where the hell is Squawks? Squawks has been such a presence in the Donkey Kong series, especially with Returns onwards. He's been one of the two returning animal buddies, has always made an appearance. It's a big part of, the theme park. And it's just you're not putting Squawks in this? You're not even referencing Squawks? Well, they had Squawks queued up for the DLC. That's why.
They were ready. And I hear if you run around the building 1,000 times, reset your game, and then put the cartridge in backwards and talk to him, he gives you a secret line of dialogue that says, "Sorry I couldn't make it. I had to go tell Diddy Kong about a kart racing thing happening." Something about a pig. I don't know. I'm choosing to believe that Diddy Kong Racing DS takes place alongside the first chunk of Bananza.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what ended me up there, but that's for some reason, as soon as I was seeing him, I was like, "Oh, Squawks, it's good to see him. Oh my gosh. Wow." I wish I could have seen him in the main game more, just because I miss him so much. And I, for some reason, felt I had to headcanon it for something. So I was like, okay, Sure, Diddy Kong Racing DS. That gives me closure. I'm fine. It's okay. He's here. Everything's okay.
So yeah, like talking to Squawks, and I have a lot of thoughts about Squawks and how this game handles the notion of Squawks, which we'll get into. Mm-hmm. I will get into it, the multiple Squawks. But this Squawks, I assume, is the primary Squawks, Squawks Prime, if you will. And Squawks is in his own little beach cabana here on the Congo beach. And you talk to him at first, and he'll say squawk like he does in Donkey Kong 64. And Pauline will have some sort of chat with him where she'll say, "Oh, you're DK's friend. Hello." And, Squawks is just squawk, squawk. And Pauline says, it's very much like Lassie. Like, oh, Timmy fell in the well? Is that what you're trying to say, girl?
That's exactly how it feels.
And Pauline's like, so you're saying Void's dirt pile was parked over there? He's right. We better go check it out, DK. So I was like, yeah.
I want to know where Pauline learned how to speak bird. She's very linguistically talented, unlike yours truly.
Yeah, I have the same problem as where I really trip over my words when I'm trying to discuss the eloquence of language.
Yeah. I just got to simplify it for myself, that's all. Hey, she doesn't talk to birds good.
Yeah, I do like that Pauline is just kind of this animal whisperer. No matter who it is or what language they may be speaking, Pauline gets the gist.
She probably deals with a lot of the planning. Like, say these guys swing over to Mario's universe to, like, do a little outing, and the princess is like, "Oh, hey, Pauline, when we're, like, going out to get dinner?" And DK goes, "Ooh," and we get a squawk, squawk. And she's like, "Oh, well, yeah, didn't you hear the reservation's at 7? What do you mean?"
Yeah. So Squawk's Hut is where you go to exchange Banandium chips for statues, which Squawks will retrieve out of the ocean depths. And earning even more Banandium chips than you may have procured throughout the game so far, it's one of the primary motivators of Emerald Rush. It's collecting all of these statues. So we're not really going to get into that in this episode. The statues are really cool, though. I really do appreciate them, especially since we're getting, more statues to come. And it's kind of this grand celebration of the Donkey Kong series. I do appreciate the statues. And I have thoughts about the statues, but now's not really the time to discuss the statues. So I'll just say that that's really what Squawks is there for. That's why he has his own little kind of station on DK Island. It's kind of like his own Kong Helper shop that you would find on the map screen of a Donkey Kong Country game. And studying the details of Squawk's Hut really kind of makes me think that Squawk's Hut is actually a Funky Kong business venture.
Ooh. So, like, thinking that he's teaming up with Funky to help expand the business?
Well, I think Funky is just kind of exploiting Squawks. This is Funky's new business. Funky diversifies his portfolio. He's got Funky's Flights. He's got Funky's Flights 2, or had Funky's Flights 2 before Crocodile Isle sank. He's got Funky's Rentals in the Northern Hemisphere. He's got Funky's Armory. He's got the Fly-In By, and now he's got Squawk's Hut. Because Funky and Squawks, they struck up a friendship, a relationship in Tropical Freeze when Funky was renting out Squawks to sniff out puzzle pieces. And of course, Tropical Freeze for the Switch introduced Talks. And so I'm thinking, Funky's got Talks manning the Fly-In By now on a more day-to-day basis. But then he was like, I could, put Squawks to work. And, set up this kind of retrieval service, perhaps. So what really lends me to believe that Funky is behind this, it's a little visual Easter egg. There is a bandana. Funky's bandana is strewn over one of the crates behind Squawks.
Oh, there is. I didn't even notice that.
There's also a surfboard leaning against Squawk's hut. Now, there are surfboards all over Donkey Kong Island. So, that's not necessarily correlation, but it does make me think this is clearly something Funky has recently constructed. And Funky doesn't show up in Bananza. He is referenced in New Donk City, and he's referenced a couple times here in the DLC, but I think Funky is just being an entrepreneur, and he's just busy. He's somewhere else right now, but he was very recently here constructing Squawk's hut.
I believe that. Oh, hey, I don't know. Maybe they contracted Funky to help build a couple of those, perhaps warp gongs, the tuning forks.
We know Grumpy Kong built the facsimile warp gong in the Ingot Isle cave-in, and maybe Funky's like, oh shit, this new construction company might muscle its way into my business enterprises. I need to start building warp gongs. Maybe, I don't know. Little rivalry there, but so many details here in Squawk's hut. I could not believe they used a Squawk's crate from DKC 2, DKC 3 as a planter. It's been turned into this little vase for some tropical plants, as is a Squawk's barrel from those games as well.
Something I like a lot about that is they didn't change the design that much, especially with the crate.
Yeah.
It looks like they just pulled it right out of DKC2.
I know. It feels so authentically like this is a relic from 30 years ago, and it's been reconfigured now. It's been given a new purpose. The Squawk's barrel, these animal transformation barrels, which haven't been a thing, right? They haven't been a thing since Donkey Kong Land 3. DK64 introduced the animal transformation crates, which was a play on it, but these are such an iconic part of the series in my mind, but they really haven't been in use as the use of the animal buddies has tapered off. But here we have this very recognizable imagery with flowers growing in it. And I also love the little detail that the paint has worn off slightly. Throughout the decades, it has slowly degraded. And so it's not as pristine as it once was.
It truly is being treated like a relic, an artifact.
Yeah. Yeah. And I probably spent a long time looking at this, and then I would accidentally hit the ground and knock it sideways and be like, no! I would feel so bad about accidentally damaging anything, here or in DK's treehouse, because no, this is all precious. This belongs in a museum. No!
The amount of times when I was trying to cash in the coins to get the statues, for some reason, my camera kept ending up right behind something, so it wouldn't acknowledge that I was looking at Squawks, and I'd go to press the A button to talk to him, and I'd just smash down and break part of his thing, and I was always like, oh no! I felt so bad I'd reset the island every time I did it.
I mean, yeah, thankfully, it's Bananza rules, the fractones are resetting the terrain or whatever, and everything can be fixed very, very fast, and so... That being said, I would always just be so demoralized when I would see this beloved reference, this beloved item from several years in the past from my childhood, and I would just splinter it immediately.
Well, especially when you talk it looks like it's been through the decades. It's worn down. It's survived. It's been repurposed. And then with the wrong flick of a button, it's gone.
Yeah.
You're oh no.
Yeah, I eventually got over this throughout Bananza this aversion towards destruction. But here on Donkey Kong Island, it's a whole different experience because I've been here before. I know what this stuff is. I adore all of this. This is my life. This is my fandom. And, you know, you wouldn't want to, like... It'd be like a Star Wars fan, like, being like, oh, wow, this is where Luke grew up. Oh, wow. Oh, no, oops. Oops, it's gone.
Just a little whoops. Oh, I mean, you know, we'll blow up Tatooine, you break a couple barrels on DK Island. What's the difference?
Freezer in the live stream says, Hyle noticed this, but not the claptraps. Look, Freezer. I eventually saw the meaty middle of the claptraps, okay? Just that one time. Anyway.
That's all right. We know you're respectful. You don't look at people's meaty middles, you know? You're a gentleman.
I'm purely surface level. So there are also, and I wasn't really sure what these were supposed to be. These are like child blocks. Like these are like a preschool toy of blocks stacked up next to the Squawk's barrel planter, and they have different animal designs on the sides. There is a rhino, there is a parrot, and there is a swordfish. Oh, and there are also banana peels. And I don't think this is a Kiddy Kong reference. I don't. But that being said, if Funky did build Squawk's hut, maybe they did once belong to Kiddy Kong, because there was that brief time at the beginning of DKC3 where Funky inexplicably was babysitting Kiddy, or somehow was in possession of Kiddy in his boat shop, and was like...
They at least had him in like sitting in there and was like, I gotta figure out what to do with this child. So maybe he made them those toy blocks.
Or maybe that's what Kiddy had whip him when Kiddy's parents dropped them off, or when Funky... broke into their house and took him from his crib. And maybe because then Dixie took Kiddy, Funky has just had these in his possession for 29 years. And he was like, oh yeah, these might be a colorful addition to Squawk's hut. So my headcanon is these once belonged to Kiddy Kong. There's your Kiddy Kong reference in Donkey Kong Bonanza.
I will take that, because that's more of a reference than I expect. Although... There is part of me that is waiting to wake up one day to an announcement of like a Kiddy Kong statue being added to one of the events and watching everyone go like crazy.
Yeah. But it's Kiddy Kong as he looks today, like aged up. Kiddy Kong is a 30-year-old who's just very sad.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's the Chunky Kong statue, of course. I'm
thinking
I'm not going down that route.
No, I'm thinking it's Kiddy Kong on a couch, unemployed, with a beer in his hand, with a little tear.
He's still wearing the onesie.
Still wearing the onesie. Doesn't fit him anymore. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love that. That would be my favorite statue. I would play nonstop until I got that thing.
So I probably spent 20 minutes looking at all the shit around Squawk's hut, making sure I wasn't missing any details. And yeah, love it. Absolutely love it.
Something that popped in my head, though I don't know how much I believe it, because you had mentioned, they did the animal crates in DK64.
Yeah.
For the transformations. And for a second, I was looking at those going, I wonder if that's like a soft nod to those crates, even though they're just blocks. But I think I'm pulling a little too far, especially considering the other ones are so faithful to their designs. I did have a moment of like, oh, maybe it's pushing to that, but I like the Kiddy Kong connection far more.
You know what? I feel bad for Joy Content, who was on the Bonanza episode for Radiance Layer. She's big Kiddy Kong fan, and kind of embittered that out of all the references throughout Donkey Kong Bonanza, Kiddy Kong has never come up, even in a New Donk City background gag. And so here you go, Joy. This is my offering to you. Take it or leave it. Kiddy Kong in Donkey Kong Bonanza.
We'll take what we can. Like I said, DKC3 was my first Donkey Kong game, so I have a weird, twisted soft spot for Kiddy Kong.
There's nothing wrong with loving DKC3. That is the correct opinion. And there's nothing wrong with loving Kiddy Kong. He is what he is. So before we move on from Funky and from Funky's role in Squawk's Hut, as I said, there are several surfboards scattered around DK Island and beach balls. Now, with the beach balls, you can just kind of kick them and then they pop. But the surfboards, really, really wonderful. You can actually use them to surf. You know, turf surfing and surf surfing is a thing with all-terrain and Bananza. But these surfboards just work like surfboards. You pick one up, you surf on it. And you can just surf to your heart's content. And I was surprised at how, like, they actually worked as you would imagine they would.
Yes, I was like, it's such a small detail, but when I picked it up, I'm like, oh, I get it, because, you know, it's a surfboard, and I tried to just use it for the turf surf, just on the sand, and it didn't work, and I was like, huh? And then, like, it's a little 2 wires connected to my brain, I'm like, it's a surfboard for the water. I don't know why I like the fact that they're like, it's the one of the few things that you can't just surf with regardless. The fact that it has to be in the water, very cute. And very fun, too.
It's worth pointing out that it is the exact design of Funky's surfboard from Tropical Freeze.
Yep.
Don't worry, fans of classic surfboards. We'll have our day as well. But yeah, it is one of the very, very explicit references to Retro's games across this DLC. Because on the surface, it looks mostly like it's just taking from the Rare stuff. But they do get some Retro era references in here as well.
Yeah, I could have sworn that I had a blue surfboard at some point, but I don't know if I'm gaslighting myself on that or not. As I don't remember using that particular design, but I also, when I was surfing, I think it was like 3 a.m. and I was sitting in bed, probably staying up later than I should, so I'm not going to act like I was of sound mind when that happened.
Here's the thing, I'm not dismissing that, because there is still stuff I'm discovering about this DLC that I literally just discovered last night as I was playing through DK Island again, making sure I wasn't missing anything. And I'm sure I'm still missing stuff. That's the thing. Like the whole thing where you can actually pick up one of the tires around Donkey Kong's treehouse and, transport it somewhere else and use it to bounce. I didn't realize that. And I was like, holy shit. I can just take this tire wherever I want. It's just a piece of, like, movable terrain like the surfboards. So, yeah, there might be a blue one you can use as well.
I didn't know that about the tire either. After this, I'm actually probably going to go boot up my Switch and do that just because I want to bounce around with it.
Yeah, I took it in Donkey Kong's treehouse and I bounced through the roof. And I was like, oh, it's a little bit different. A little bit different than it used to be. So another detail I really liked, completely unnecessary, the barrels are different on DK Island than the rest of the game. So, Ingot Isle, you've got the red-rimmed barrels that kind of look like the ones from DK Arcade. The Underground World has the green barrels, which Courtney theorized might have been Kremlin crew supplies brought in from their expedition of the Underground World. The barrels here are brown. They're colored more like the ones from the Rare and Retro games, but they are stamped with DK Island on the side, and they've got little palm trees painted on top.
I want one of those for my living room.
Right? Like, that would be just the kind of aesthetic I would really like. I'm all about, like, I guess you would call it cabin core nowadays, but I'm all about, like, the woodsy aesthetic, although I like a touch of modern in there as well. But I would love to have a bunch of DK Island barrels around my house. If I had a house, if I had a cabin, if I had any,
But that motivates me. Maybe I could find like a little like small barrel end table. And I mean, all it would take is a little careful paint and a few mistakes here and there. And you could have a DK Island barrel in your home. Toss a little banana lamp on there, live a good life, or a palm tree lamp.
Right. I would use it as a table, honestly. Like a kitchen
Throw out my
table.
dining table. We just get 2 barrels. That's it.
Yeah, but yeah, I love this little detail. It's a little bit of embellishment on Bananza's part, but I do like that we have very different barrel types depending on which region, and it's all very plausible, right? They could have just reused the green barrels here, and I don't think anybody would have batted an eye.
No, but that's something that Bananza, and especially this DLC, like, there are references throughout the entire game. Like, it's all one big love letter. But this island is such a concentration of, like, we let the main game be its own thing and spread its wings and establish new stuff while keeping it tied to the, classic memories and ideas. But when you come to this island, it is just a giant celebration. It is a thank you of, like, we want everything to feel right at home. Just like it's quote unquote always been to an extent. Like, of course, those are the barrels on DK Island. Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah, I also like just like these are just like supplies for DK Islands, and they stamp them. Maybe, these are barrels they like export to Timbers Island or the Isle of Hags or so, just like, oh yeah, we've got fresh bananas from DK Island. Look, it's got that DK Island stamp of authenticity.
That's how you know it's the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one's full of dust straight from the banana fairies. It's the high price item.
So I of course was told by Squawks to go visit Void and the remains of the pay dirt pile driver. I ignored Squawks because of course I wanted to go visit my friends and family. I went up to Donkey Kong's treehouse, and Diddy, Dixie, Cranky, Ramby, the primary Ramby, the real Ramby, if you will, because he's got the pack saddle, the one Cranky was hauling through the underground world, and A-Squawks. They're all hanging outside Donkey Kong's treehouse. Diddy says, "Welcome back, big buddy." Dixie says, hey, DK, and Cranky actually has new dialogue at long last. He doesn't go through his spiel. He doesn't go through his normal rant. This is all fresh words put into Cranky's aged mouth. So, it's really great to see. Cranky says, well, you're finally here. Took you long enough to get back home. And I'm like, the last time I saw all of you, you were just in the underground world. So, like, when did you all get back? Like, obviously, it happened, but the fact that the 3 of them made it back before Donkey Kong, where last we knew, they were still stuck down here with everyone else. And, I guess they managed to get their way back from the Ingot Isle cave-in, and then they, I don't know, took a ship or something, or just swam back. But, yeah, they're like, oh, it took you long enough. And I'm like, I've been busy.
It's like, do you have any idea what I've been doing?
Yeah, like, Cranky, you dug all the way down the Earth's crust with your little garden shovel, and you didn't accomplish anything. So, okay, sure, like, give me that sass, but I've been kind of busy getting swallowed by a big eel, and all right.
Who knows? Maybe that's part of it. Maybe if Funky did help establish some of the, like, the elevator stuff, the gongs, the tuning forks. I wonder if while he was maybe building those pathways or helping on them, he, like, saw Cranky and the gang and was like, y'all want to ride?
Well, March Rose in a live stream suggests maybe the Inn Guards, and I'm putting scare quotes around that. The Inn Guards came and got them. And yeah, like, I think with some of the prospector monkeys from Ingot Isle, some of them are just like, yeah, we're never leaving. We kind of like it down here. And so they're just kind of settled in, and the Ingot Isle Cave-In is now kind of part of the underground world. But of course, Cranky, Diddy and Dixie, Ramby, they were never going to stay down there permanently. Even though I'm sure Diddy and Dixie can now go back to the racing layer now that the Warp Gong is here and still run it, as kind of the side hustle. So, the underground world is part of the greater archipelago now. Even though it's not really part of the archipelago, it's still connected to all of it. And that ecosystem is now part of the Kong's life, which I kind of like, that it's not just this distant, separate thing from this one adventure, that it can carry forward and can evolve alongside DK Islands and all the other locations.
Yeah, it's part of the landscape now. I appreciate that the game didn't, just for the sake of it, at the end go, oh, and then everything shook and it all caved in and now it's closed off and that's the end. It didn't shut down all of the worlds, the layers, I guess, that we traveled to and adventured to. It's a permanent piece of history on this world now.
Which, again, it's future-proofing it because, of course, characters will show back up in the future. Of course, we're going to get Fractones making appearances. Of course, we're going to see the Snake Elder or some weirdo again. So just leave that possibility open. Don't close it off for the game's sake when it's so much more fun to just keep expanding the world.
It is. The future-proofing is the thing that makes me unrivaled with my excitement, because you could tell that this is the start. This wasn't just a sorry that it took us this long, here's some Donkey Kong. It was all right, let's start the engine. This is just the takeoff.
I see so many snarky comments and well-meaning and jokey comments from so many people in the community that it's going to be another 11 years. It's going to be another 11 years. I hope you enjoyed Bananza because it's going to be another 11 years. I'm like, shut. No, it's not. It's not. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the start of a new era. And it's going to be a couple of years before we get a new game. Not necessarily a new 3D Donkey Kong game, but a Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong something. They're not going to leave it dormant. It's got a new home. It's got a new mission statement. And it's got newfound popularity. There's a Donkey Kong movie in development, people. There's going to be some tie-ins, for sure.
We're at the start of it. And thankfully, with the power of the Switch 2 Joy-Con HD Rumble, we can finally do Barrel Blast 2.
You know what? Do it right this time. I would be all for it. There's a good game in there. I maintain there's a good game in there. It just was let down with the shift from the DK Bongos to the Wiimote.
Which, if we're good getting there, speaking of the bongos.
We'll get to the bongos, Miles. I'm not done talking about Cranky Kong. So, I was long-winded as Cranky, especially when talking about Cranky. So Donkey Kong can ask, what's new here? And this is where Cranky gives us a little bit of exposition explaining the integration of Donkey Kong Island with the Bananza elements. Cranky says, what's new, he says. Just look around. Golden roots have popped up all over our island. Such glitzy eyesores. So just like when we went back to Ingot Isle, or the Ingot Isle cave-in in the post-game, this is suggesting that the awakening of the Banandium root has now reached all the way to the surface. And so we are getting Banandium gold sprouting up on Donkey Kong Island. Maybe for the first time ever. It's just so full of life now that it has reached all the way to Donkey Kong Island. Maybe even as an acknowledgement of Donkey Kong and his role in helping not just restore the Banandium root, but, keeping it safe from K. Rool.
That's true. It's so strange seeing all of the gold, the root, spiraling its way through here in such a familiar territory. And it does feel like, since we've reset the core, that it is essentially reaching out to the ends of the earth to replenish the life, which, we've talked before plenty times how there's this, nature versus machine push that is told throughout a bunch of the country games, and just the general story of like, you know, the technology and the mechanisms from the Kremlings to the nature and the jungle and the Kongs. And this is, you know, not to be straightforward, nature is healing. That is, it feels like the gold is springing out and bringing the nature from its depths all the way back out, even in places like Donkey Kong Island.
Yeah, it's a restoration of life. It's a wellspring of abundance. And yeah, I'm all for it. And, you know, I just look at these golden roots, and they're just such a recognizable part of Donkey Kong iconography now that for me, I was just like, oh yeah, of course there's golden roots here, without even thinking before I talked to Cranky, wait, that doesn't make sense. And then, you know, you do get the little bit of explanation there. You do get the exposition that, hey, there's golden roots everywhere now, and I'm Cranky Kong. I don't like it because I like things the way they were. Blah, 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 blah. And then he explains, and that's not all. There are fresh bonus stages here too. 6 of them, in fact, all tucked into different corners. And yeah, the bonus stages, they are just repeats of the ones found throughout the underground world. What this really allows players is the ability to play them kind of at their leisure, without having to go from world to world and, you know, not remembering which one is which. If you just want to pull up one of the bonus stages, they're here on Donkey Kong Island now.
Mm-hmm. I was hoping that maybe they were going to be steeped in a little bit more celebration and excitement, and a couple of them do, but I think, I don't want to use the word disappointment because it's such a small thing, but those are the things where I was like, oh, cool, and I checked them out, and I'm like, I played them all in the course of like 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I don't know what I expected, if I expected more like reference porn and it was just repeats of the main game. Ultimately, it's like, yeah, I'm okay with that because it's kind of nice to have that, you know, they're kind of this hidden thing in Bananza. They're not necessary for completion, and a lot of players might miss them considering they are tucked away in obscure corners of the worlds. And so I like that you could just, you know, I'll play this. Okay, yeah, I got my fill. And it's an easy way to get gold in a fun, kinetic sort of way.
Yeah, I think the monetary value of it works well because, you know, sometimes someone might be like, I'm really stuck. I don't know where this last banana is. I don't have enough money to buy a hint. So you could just swing over to DK Island real quick, play some bonuses, take in the sights, surf a little bit, and go, okay, I'm ready to head back to the shop on that layer I got to work on.
Yeah, and if you're like me and you've already completed everything besides Emerald Rush, there really is no more point to gold, but I you know, it is good for those who are still trying to knock things out and, you know, pay some fractones.
I think I just acknowledged, looking at your notes here, 336,000 gold.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're a wealthy man.
Yeah, you should see my Bananium chips now that I've been playing Emerald Rush.
Gosh.
But yes, as Cranky does explain, in other words, this island is suddenly a perfect place to load up on gold if you like taking the easy way out. And then Donkey Kong can ask, got any tips? And Cranky, you know, don't tell me you need more help. Pah! Already caving in, eh? Fine. Here's a tip. You should probably go see what's up with that rundown dirt pile. They really want you to go check out Void to set up Emerald Rush. We're not doing that on this episode.
I know, everybody kept being like, you go check out the thing. I'm like, I'm checking out the thing.
It's
the
like
island.
Nintendo's like, no, the monetary value of the DLC as an Emerald Rush. And I'm like, yes, I understand that, Nintendo. But also, we can talk about the blocks that maybe belong to Kiddy Kong.
Yeah, that's what I paid for. I looked, I saw $20. That says Kiddy Kong all over it.
Yeah. So there is more Cranky dialogue. Once you actually do talk to Void and set all of that up, you can come back to Cranky. And it's actually maybe my favorite Cranky dialogue. I was really delighted to discover this later on. So if you go back to Cranky and then ask him, got any tips after you've already talked to Void and set up Emerald Rush, Cranky will say, well, actually, no. That's all the advice old Cranky here can give you. Well done, Donkey, my boy. Which is a callback reference, but I also believe it's one of the only instances, if not the only instance, of anyone calling him Donkey in this game, which I love.
Hearing that much, like, genuine earnesty out of Cranky Kong, I don't know why that makes me, like, a little emotional.
It's the kind of earnestness that you would get when you would actually beat the game or 100%, 101% complete the game. Back in the day, Cranky would drop the bullshit and actually congratulate you. And the well done, Donkey, my boy, is a lifted line from that. But yeah, everybody calls him DK in this. And, you know, you might get Donkey Kong, the full name, but the very personal Donkey, which is always how I referenced him before I think the cartoon made DK more in vogue. I always thought of him as Donkey, first name basis with this guy. And I think that is the more personal, more familial, more I raised you, I'm going to call you Donkey kind of term. And it really just shows like the relationship between the two characters. And it's kind of stark seeing it here because you're just so accustomed to DK at this point.
It is, which only makes me think of how intentional it must be.
Yeah.
Because they could have easily said, oh, well done, DK, my boy. And no one would have batted an eye. Like, it would have just been like, yep, there you go. That's sweet. That's kind. It's the fact that he's, like, addressing him directly by his name. It's like, you're Donkey.
Yeah.
Which I think that's a fun name to try to say in an endearing tone.
Well, remember, Cranky is also Donkey. So it's it is a name that means quite a lot to him. It's his name and potentially his father's name or his grandfather's name or his great-grandfather's name. And, you know, going all the way back, we don't know how far Donkey Kong as a name, as a title kind of extends to in the history of this island. You know, when did it become Donkey Kong Island, really? So
true. For all we know, our current favorite DK could be Donkey Kong, like the 47th.
Right. Like, we only view it in relation to Cranky, and then the eternal debate, is this Donkey Kong Jr., or what? What's with the missing generation? Wait, father or grandfather? But the truth is, we know there are Donkey Kongs, or at least protectors of this island, going back centuries. We know that from Donkey Konga 2, of all fucking games. So, Cranky then, final line, says, now, leave me be. I didn't even ask to be in this DLC nonsense, you hear? Which, again, Cranky breaking the fourth wall. Cranky acknowledging they are in a video game, and they are in this modern convention of video games that Cranky Kong would absolutely loathe. And it's Cranky shit-talking this, shit-talking a Nintendo product in 2025, Cranky being Cranky. Oh my god!
This is probably close to one of his most, like, true to self lines of dialogue.
Yeah.
In the entire game, because you're here. This is the island of celebration. You've probably, if you're playing the DLC, you've probably beaten the game and played through, like, you've experienced the whole of Bananza. And he's just like, DLC, man, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be part of this shit. And that's the last, if I'm correct, that's the last natural line of dialogue you get from Cranky Kong.
There might be something he says.
Oh, there's probably something later on.
Yeah, but I can't talk about that.
I'll come back to you once I beat Emerald Rush.
Yeah, I can't talk about that until the Emerald Rush episode. But yeah, this is just like, oh my god, perfection. Cranky Kong, I know everybody complained about his reheated lines from layer to layer, but you know what? This is the best Cranky Kong has been written since, honestly, 1999.
Mm-hmm. I liked him in the Returns games, but it felt very cut and paste.
And he didn't break the fourth wall. In like, he did a little bit, but there's never that very brutal, stark acknowledgement that, hey, we're video game characters.
Mm-hmm.
So
I wonder if that's some sort of knowledge you get when you become, part of the Kong family line as like a protector of the islands. If you gain sort of like a sixth sense for the fourth wall.
Either that or Cranky's just senile and he's just like, he is just hallucinating this idea. I mean, again, I've done a whole video about the fourth wall in the DKU and the various different levels of metatextual existence therein, how video games of these characters exist in this world. Their exploits are being adapted into video games, but then on another level, they are within a video game that we are playing. So where does the knowledge extend? How far does it reach out? And it does make your brain hurt a little bit.
It does. It's like when they would do, I can't remember specific issues, but I would be reading like volumes of The Flash, and it would show like young Barry Allen with like a Spider-Man comic in his bag. And I'm like, okay, so DC's real, but Marvel is a comic book in their universe, and them and trying to like wrap my brain around how that works. Because then there's times in Marvel where like a Batman comic has showed up on someone's shelf. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how does that work?
Well, then the entire DC multiverse, like different Earths are like adapted into comic books in those worlds. Like the original DC crossover between Earth 1 and Earth 2 was Barry Allen reading the exploits of the Earth 2 Flash, Jay Garrick, in comic books, and then realizing he actually existed. And the authors of that comic book were actually sort of divining the universe. They were like having psychic visions of this universe and turning it into a comic book. So yeah, it gets pretty trippy when we talk about things like Rare and Nintendo existing in this world, but then the Lord of Games also exist, and Cranky like acknowledges they are video game heroes, and that is a title you have to work for. I love it.
Mm-hmm. The more metatextual you get and the more like convoluted, the tastier it gets.
Yep. Anyway, so then going up to Donkey Kong's treehouse, and I love that Pauline is very excited. She says, "This is your house, DK? Give me the tour." Don't worry, it won't take long.
It really won't.
So you climb up the ladder and you're in the treehouse, and Pauline's like, "Wow, look at all this cool stuff," as you see the smutty portrait of Candy Kong on the wall.
Hey, look, poor thing's been underground. The idea of like even just a television and a radio is probably blowing her mind right now.
I know. There was the line I had immediately pop in my head, though. I couldn't help myself. After Pauline said that, I imagined her saying, "What's the giant crusty sock for, DK?"
Huh?
Thankfully, they don't actually bring in that giant sock thing from Donkey Kong Country into this iteration of the treehouse, but there are lots of familiar items from the past. And this kind of blew me away because we're so used to whenever there is a new generation of Donkey Kong tends to get a new treehouse. And within that treehouse are all new items, right? So from Donkey Kong 64, coming out of the Donkey Kong Country era, he had a new treehouse, and it had stuff that was visually similar to the one from Donkey Kong Country, but it was all pretty much new. And then Donkey Kong Country Returns in 2010, new treehouse, new stuff within. Here we have like very, very like clearly things from the past, things from these other treehouses that he has brought forth into this new house. This we'll call it the fourth main treehouse, even though it does, of course, the exterior is the Retro Studios Jungle Hut, the one that was established in that game. I will explain why I don't think it is the exact same one. And it's just a matter of location. But yes, this one does have very familiar elements within. Of course, we have the Candy portrait from Donkey Kong 64. Her design has been tweaked a little bit to reflect the current design of the Kongs. Her, nose has been amended, for one.
Oh, yeah. I guess I just sort of looked at it and assumed it was just an old render, but that's a brand new Candy Kong.
Yeah. I mean, the pose is the same. It's supposed to be the exact same portrait, and it's even a little wrinkled, like it has been, maybe taken out of its old, location and put in this frame here, but it is, I think, supposed to be the one from 1999. It's just kind of been updated to reflect, oh yeah, the Kongs do have the raised nose and,
Yeah, just those little tweaks.
And this is an actual, if not physical appearance, physical depiction of Candy Kong in Donkey Kong Bonanza. I was astounded when they referenced her in Racing Layer, but to actually get this, I was like, wow. They're big day for Candy Kong fans.
It's that same thing where, at that point, that's why I believe, yeah, those blocks could definitely be tied to Kiddy Kong somehow. Because if we're getting a aged, lived Candy Kong picture that's been in his hut forever, the gloves are off completely.
Yeah.
We're here to do it all, except unfortunately there's no crusty sock to pick up and use like a surfboard. But that's just a minor.
I can't wait for that statue in an Emerald Rush event. Yeah. So there is a new a closet that one of the Fractones has helpfully deposited here. One of these closets that can reach into the ether across the underground world and pull out their clothes from layer to layer. These little portals. I don't know, but there's a closet here now, so you can change into whatever garb you want. But there's also the rug from Donkey Kong 64, the big DK rug. It's just back. It's been put here. I love it. And also the gingham cloth, the red and blue checkered patterned cloth from the Watchtower in Donkey Kong 64. It's underneath the boombox and the TV here as well.
It is. I'm amazed at how much they managed to pull in without it feeling again, this is just a lot of references thrown together, but they all feel completely at home.
Yeah.
I guess no joke intended on that. And I actually really like that the closet isn't just a wooden closet or Donkey Kong's closet or stylized to fit into the home. It's clearly a Fractone closet.
Yeah.
Because of course, why would he need one? All he has is a tie. He hasn't worn basically anything else until this game outside of a couple things. So I like that they're yeah, no, Donkey Kong doesn't have clothes at home. He doesn't have a closet, so the Fractones had to put one there.
Yeah, up until this point, he had a bunch of ties, as seen in Donkey Kong Country Returns, and he had a big crusty sock, as seen in Donkey Kong Country. So,
exactly.
Now he has a more expansive wardrobe, but he needs a wardrobe. He needs a place to keep it all, and he's got it here, courtesy of the Fractones. I should point out the boombox that's sitting atop a barrel, which the barrel is, I don't know if it's exactly the same as the Ingot Isle barrels, but it is styled, I think, more to be the DK arcade kind of barrel. The boombox atop the barrel, I think it's most similar to the one from Donkey Kong Country Returns. It's not 100%, but things do line up with that boombox in particular. And
it does look really similar.
Yeah. And also from Returns, the rug from Returns is also there underneath his hammock. It's depicted as being a little bit smaller, but it is the weird kind of squiggly yellow and red rug that was from the Returns Jungle Hut is actually depicted here as well. Much smaller than the DK64 rug next to it.
I like that they didn't like have to decide what rug to go with. They were like, okay, well, we'll do the classic 64 one because it's the big and it says DK on it.
Yeah.
But the returns one has like the little footrest rug.
Yeah.
That's cute. Although when I stare at that design, all I think of is Stinky Ape Summer. You guys used that a while back, and for some reason I looked at it, and the first thought that I had was Stinky Ape.
Yeah.
I'm like, right? No, this is from other things too.
Yeah. The TV, it's a CRT TV. I think it's the same design as the fossils you got in Feast Layer. I'm actually not sure on that, but it's a mostly new TV design. It's different from the one in Returns.
It is, because the one in Returns is very like 70s, like wooden box top, like something, you know, what you're playing Atari on.
Yeah, it's one of the models that would just sit on the floor without like having a stand or table.
Mm-hmm. I was one of those.
Yeah, whereas
this one, I like the red on it a lot.
Yeah, and this TV, I like that it's on and there's static. And I did immediately think, like in Returns, I'm gonna, hand slap the ground and turn on the TV and see what comes on. And instead, I just destroyed everything in the treehouse. And I felt so bad.
I like this ongoing theme throughout this of like, oh, what a piece of history. I want to interact with that. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I just want to involve myself with all these wonderful little props and pieces, and I just end up punching through everything. But that's half the fun.
Yeah.
Just let's see. I acknowledge. I look here. There is the surfboard.
Yes. I want to discuss the surfboard. So this is the classic Funky Kong surfboard from the original Donkey Kong Country. Obviously a gift from Funky that Donkey Kong has hung up on the wall, but this isn't quite identical to that one. This is a slightly different model because that one in 94 said Surf Nintendo on it, and this one says Surf DK Island.
Interesting. So he must be making new versions of it.
Or maybe this is one that Donkey Kong always had, like they bought these surfboards together. And I don't know. I don't know if they're custom jobs or not, but, I think it's just Nintendo. One of the things they do have a hang up about is obvious self-promotion. Like, I'll think back to Cranky's Cabin appearing in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate's World of Light, and they changed the neon sign above Cranky's Cabin to get rid of the Nintendo logo. And I think Nintendo just doesn't do the whole self-promotion thing like Rare would always do, and would do on Nintendo's behalf as well in these games. Even though this surfboard did come back even before this in Donkey Kong Country at Super Nintendo World. It's used as the basis for the Funky's Flying By sign. And on that surfboard, it does say Surf Nintendo on it. So they didn't change it for that, but EPD apparently thought, no, that's a little bit gauche. That's D-Class A. We are going to change it to Surf DK Island.
Yeah, look at the documents like, look, we just had Cranky yell at the player about DLC. We can't break it that much.
Mm-hmm.
So let's rein it back in with DK Island.
Yeah.
I will also note earlier when I was so sure I surfed on a blue surfboard, this is the one that I used.
You actually got it off the...
I busted down, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, but I'm pretty darn sure because I remember busting down the whole house just because curiosity, and that the surfboard survived, and I took it out and I went surfing with it.
See, okay, because I destroyed everything in there once and I was so terrified by it. I was so aghast at my clumsiness that I've never done it again. So I didn't even realize you could take it off the wall and use it. That's amazing. I've got to do it now.
Pretty sure. Yeah, I would go and double check
Yeah.
that, and you have every right to tag me on Blue Sky and tell me I'm wrong if that's not the case. But that explains, because I like had a vision of the board I was using, and I'm like, it wasn't the other one at all. But I'm pretty sure I used the Surf DK Island board.
I just love that we have both iterations, like both extreme ends of the Funky Kong eras represented on DK Island. It's wild to me that they would even bother.
Well, if they're not going to go far enough to have Funky show up and, show his beautiful face to everybody in the game, I think this is the least that he deserves with how, like, omnipresent he is.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout every game.
And, he has had such a huge presence, especially since Tropical Freeze. And everybody's saying, like, where's Funky in the theme park? Where's Funky in the Super Mario Brothers movie? Where's Funky in Bananza? And I'm like, he's leaving us wanting, but he's like, there's teases for him in each one. So eventually we're gonna get just a whole ass Funky Kong game, I would say. Like, I'm making the prediction now, Funky Kong is going to get his own spin-off.
I very much buy into that. He's always been a pretty popular character, and especially when he became, like, the cult character pick in Mario Kart Wii.
Yeah.
And then adding, like, the fact even just the Tropical Freeze release with a new Funky mode, they clearly have intention with him. Or at least think that he is worthy enough of getting his own, like, addition to those games.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. He has great design. He's one of my favorite characters. He's such a standout. And I'd love to see him get a title that truly differentiates him from just DK, but if he lived in California.
I do really hope in the Donkey Kong movie, Keanu voices him.
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, that'd be good.
I know. I will be very, very disappointed. I don't really have much hope or, like, dream casting for that movie. But I think the one I'm absolutely certain about is Keanu Reeves as Funky Kong.
I just like the idea of walking up to, Funky's flights. Do you have any wares that you need to buy? We have an extensive set of surfboards and balloons. Not my best Keanu, but not my worst.
It was kind of Nixon a little bit, weirdly enough.
I had to turn it a little. Get all the supplies you need.
I was watching Bram Stoker's Dracula this Halloween season, and of course it's an infamously bad performance by Keanu, famously miscast in that movie as Jonathan Harker, but just hearing him try to do a British accent with his California surfer dude drawl, very young Keanu, and I was just like, it hit me there. I was like, he should be Funky Kong.
Really get back to that Bill and Ted tone.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, also hanging in the treehouse is a little bit of newness as well. He's got two framed portraits, both of Pauline performing, one from the end of the main game and one from the post game. Now, I don't know if you haven't finished the post game by the time you play this. I don't know if this, doesn't appear until then or when it actually shows up in here. And maybe you could answer that for me.
I can, because I saw the screenshot and it answered a question that I had. As when I went home, I saw that top one from the initial finale, and beneath it, the frame is there. There's just nothing in it. It's just an empty picture frame.
Cool. All right. Yeah. So sorry to spoil that for you.
Oh, no, it's okay. I spoiled it for myself already.
All right.
I was doing a lot of research on this.
Well, I love that detail, and I also take this to mean that the two end credit scenes of Pauline performing in New Donk City, they're actually in-universe sketches or drawings of the act rather than actual photographic depictions. So yeah, we talked a little bit about this. I think Courtney and I made the joke that maybe this is an in-universe sketch, or these artists, these knockaway drawings are actually in-universe drawings by a fractone named Rockaway. And then Andre and I debated about the actual nature of these as well when we discuss the post game. But yeah, I like the idea that these are just sketches that have been gifted to Donkey Kong, and yeah, it's just a nice little, like, Pauline means this much to him now that he's going to hang these in his, well, one of his many homes.
Mm-hmm. It's very sweet. And I love the idea of it being like an art piece over just a photo.
Yeah.
It's one thing to be like, oh, I captured a memory versus like commissioning like a piece of art that he looks at and he's like, you know, this is such an important and impactful moment. I don't know. I love Donkey Kong's journey in this. I love the way he's predicted. He is like, this is one of the most lovable versions of him I think I've ever witnessed.
I agree. It's Donkey Kong really presented in a way that I longed for during the buyout era, where they were kind of toying with Donkey Kong having a villainous side or a less heroic side than we had seen during the Rare years. And so to see Donkey Kong in this game being a nurturing father figure, you know, it's just wonderful. It's the exact same kind of relationship he initially had with Diddy, although that was more of a like older sibling kind of deal, where this is Donkey Kong really at his most wholesome and most like father-like parental than he's ever really been portrayed before.
Mm-hmm. And his grin is toothier than ever, but in the right way.
Just Andre says, if you enter the DLC before having completed the post game, the first Pauline picture will be hung up, but the final one won't. Donkey stopped by here before returning to Ingot Isle, took the time to hang up the first picture, and prepared a second picture frame for the day he sees her again. I mean, there is the debate about if Donkey Kong made it back to Donkey Kong Island in a 3-month interval between the end of the main game and the end of the post game. And I'm still not quite sure, but we also know Fractones have been mucking about. They dropped off the closet, so maybe they hung those for him. It's like, here's a lovely little treat.
We just need to start asking for a pre-LC that takes place exclusively just in those 3 months. And it just plays sort of like Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer, but it's just DK like putting his place together.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would be like what a Game Boy counterpart to this game would have been back in the day. That would have been a nice
100%.
little, like, yeah, you just slot that in there. It's just this little side experience. But, yeah, anyway, we got to move on from the treehouse eventually. So let's go underneath the treehouse. There is a small banana horde located underneath the treehouse, complete with the classic Kong's Banana Horde sign from Donkey Kong Country.
Yes. I didn't find that until just when I was playing last night. I don't know why I didn't bother digging down there, but I was just breaking through stuff and having a good time, just kind of smashing and, you know, letting my brain go smooth for a little while. And I just fell into it. And immediately that exact same feeling of joy completely reset itself. And I stood there for a while, took it in again.
Yeah. Yeah, I did find it right away, but just because I was looking for it, I was like, all right, there's got to be a banana horde, right? There's got to be something here. And I saw the wooden boards underneath the treehouse. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fall in. And yep, sure enough, there it was. And this is also the only place in the game where my game actually froze, where I ran into a bug or something, and the game couldn't handle it. I tried to take a statue down here, and apparently the game didn't like that and was like, nope, I'm freezing. But in Bananza's defense, it took well over 200 hours of gameplay before it ran into any technical hiccups. So
yeah, I haven't had any. I'm absolutely going to go find the biggest statue I can and take it down there. I want to see if I can break the game.
The bananas, by the way, this is an appearance of actual bananas. Throughout DK Island, there are piles of bananas. And up above in the treehouse as well, there's a pile of bananas by the hammock. And yeah, these aren't Banandium gems. These aren't like weird rocks. These are just actual bananas that you can eat and restore Donkey Kong's health. So really cool detail, really cool touch. This is a pretty small banana horde, though. All things considered, when you compare them to the banana hordes seen in the original Country Returns, the Tropical Freeze the 64 Golden Banana Horde. So I was like, is this actually the banana horde? And I have a theory. And it's not a really well-developed theory, Miles, but I was thinking about the nature of this treehouse versus the treehouse in Returns. And how this can't be the same location. Because the treehouse exterior, like I said, it visually looks pretty much identical to the one from Returns. But the problem is, it's clear on the other side of Donkey Kong Island. And everything is pretty consistent in the way it's laid out in this depiction of Donkey Kong Island. When you compare it to the rare games and even the retro games, everything kind of syncs up more or less, if this is just a general overview of DK Island. And so I was thinking, there's always been something that didn't sit right with me in the history of the Retro Studios era. And we talked about this when we did that really long episode on DK's various treehouses a few years back. Mm-hmm. I brought up the treehouse or jungle hut on the DK Jungle track from Mario Kart 7 and Mario Kart 8, because that also couldn't be the same treehouse from Returns, because that was established as being near the Golden Temple, closer to the back of the island. And so I'm thinking, what if this treehouse is that treehouse, more or less? And what if that treehouse, I'm sounding unhinged here, but just hear me out. What if that treehouse started as a decoy treehouse to deflect banana horde thieves after the Tiki Tak tribe theft of the banana horde in 2010? But then what if at some point DK decides to move the hordes back and forth between the two, or at the very least builds a decoy horde underneath this treehouse? And since it is a decoy, he does need to move some stuff in here, and he needs to occasionally live in this treehouse to throw off the scent of banana bandits.
I love this idea that he's so committed, because I mean, how many times has the bananas been stolen or like taken, obliterated?
Right.
That this guy is reaching a point of paranoia where he's like, I'm going to build a fake house. I'm going to build a second fake house. I'm going to switch my bananas between them. I'm going to put them near the temple where they'd think it would be. Like, I love the idea of him trying to like concoct a scheme to keep his bananas safe because he's so over it.
Well, and I would say Bananza also kind of makes canon the idea that Donkey Kong has moved before, that these different depictions of treehouses aren't just reinterpretations or recontextualizations for a different era from a different design team of the same treehouse, because Bananza does reference the original treehouse from Donkey Kong Country in the kind of weird, like, bonus stage challenge course, like psychedelic trip that Donkey Kong goes on. It does conjure up the old treehouse exterior. So he has moved the banana horde from time to time as he's built new treehouses. And we have the three from Country, 64, and Returns. So why not a fourth? And I think this one from Mario Kart 7 / Mario Kart 8 / Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is this treehouse. It more or less syncs up with a little squinting, with a little fudging. It more or less like syncs up with where that would be located. And I'll go one step further in the insanity. Lego Donkey Kong in 2023. If we were to take the events of Lego Donkey Kong as canon, what if that was DK moving his stuff into this iteration of the treehouse. Because
Is it the current Bananza version?
Yeah, because that Lego depiction of the treehouse also had the banana horde undercarriage, kind of like this. I'm just saying, like...
You're right, it does. And, I mean, you know, obviously it's Lego, so it's done in a particular way, but I don't see any conflicting details. They even got the tire there.
Like, the hammock was outside, but it might have been outside because he was moving stuff into this treehouse at the time. So, yeah, I know. I'm an idiot. But also, it all adds up.
It does. See, we don't need a tie-in. I was asking for a prequel DLC. You were talking about a Game Boy game. It's all right here. It's plain as day in front of us. Yeah. So, essentially, I haven't bought the Donkey Kong Lego set. But now I know that, like, as a proper timeline playthrough, I need to beat the main story of Bananza, build the Lego set, finish Bananza, then play the DLC.
Well, I would say that the Lego set takes place in 2023, or it takes place maybe like 2 years before Bananza, and and maybe maybe Mario was even helping move him in. It was just like, you know, you ask the friend you don't really care about, but has a truck or something to help you move. And, Donkey Kong was like, hey, Mario, I'm moving again. And I need to grab some stuff from my watchtower and from my jungle hut and from my original treehouse. Could you bring one of your carts over and we'll have a moving day?
Yeah, he just wanted access to all the free Toad labor.
Yeah. Anyway. It's also interesting, too, that you can connect a warp pipe to that treehouse in the Lego set. And if we are to look at the warp pipe in DK's Jungle Adventure and Mario Party, it would more or less be the same position I would think that warp pipe would be when looking at the map of where I imagined it in the Congo jungle. And compared to where the treehouse is located in Bananza. Oh my god, my brain. All right.
I see. You're claiming that you're going on a crazy twist with this, where all I've seen is you have managed to perfectly piece this together. I think there are no holes in this, and it's what I will believe for the rest of the time that I live.
You know what? If Nintendo ever needs to help shore up any of these weird errant details, I'll do it for free, Nintendo. I don't need much. I just need the satisfaction of being right.
They should just hire you on as a lore master at this point.
Yeah.
It would make things go so much smoother.
Claire Java in the live stream posits that DK's just dieting. He doesn't need all of the bananas in the horde because he's been eating the bananium gems. And yeah, like, I'm not saying this isn't like the primary banana horde. And if cranky stuff about there being a banana bandit was true, a lot of it might have been stolen. But then again, I do like the idea that he might be splitting the horde between two, or, you know, this is a decoy horde. But either way, this treehouse is a fourth treehouse. My overall point is, our generation and younger will never be homeowners, but Donkey Kong has 4 of them.
Trickle down bananomics.
But there's no place for a bathroom in this treehouse, which bothers me. Every other treehouse I've been able to fan wank where a bathroom might be hidden, you really can't do it here. And it's like, oh god, where's Donkey Kong? Like, maybe there's one hidden in the cave behind it because the porch extends outwards and there is like a rock face, but you can smash through it. And there's maybe as you smash it, you're breaking the toilet and shower immediately. And so you just never see it. But
that's the experience I want. I'm going to go level this entire island just to see if I could find the toilet.
Just plausible deniability. I need to know Donkey Kong has a place where he can go to the bathroom like a civilized being. But more to that, Pauline also is probably like spending the night or having a couple sleepovers here in this treehouse. She is a human being. She needs a bathroom. She needs a sink.
Yeah. A legitimate place for cleanliness.
Yeah. So I still have to reconcile that. I haven't gotten there yet, but I will find a place, or you will find a place, or one of our listeners will find a place where Donkey Kong can take a civilized shit.
They should have had a little thing like you could take a nap on the hammock inside of his house and DK, are you awake?
Yeah, I was hoping for that.
The bathroom?
That would have been perfect.
Can I just use the sock?
See, but then they would have had to charge $49.99 because that would have upped the value of this DLC to the point where $19.99 would be giving it away for free practically. So, going outside again, leaving behind the treehouse, looking up to the sky, there is a continual flock of parrots flying around the island. I referenced Donkey Kong 64 clearly. And like the opening cutscene of that game. But, oh my giddy aunt. Oh my diddy aunt. What a detail. What a spectacular reference. What an honest to log character inclusion. In this flock of parrots, we have 3 green parrots, but we also have 2 purple parrots.
That's one of those ones that you look at it and you're like, oh, the bird. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's like the fact that, I mean, and I don't know how this plays into the multiple squawks theory, but having just the quawks, which I will be honest, didn't register in my brain until I looked at them in this game, and they were a forgotten character in my mind for who knows how long. Well, probably since the last time I played DKC2, but that's not the point.
Well, okay, so quawks, for those who aren't in the know, there was there were two unnamed purple parrots in Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest Parrot Shoot Panic stage. And there are at least 2 because you can get 2 to appear on screen as one parrot drops you off to the other parrot. Whether or not there were intended to be more than that, we can't say for certain, but at the very least, there have always been 2 at minimum. And so because of the nature of the animal buddies, we've always argued that they are 2 separate characters, and we've given them different fanon names over the years. Squeaks and Flapper for many years, until Payon brought back the purple parrots in Donkey Kong Barrel Blast / Jet Race. And in Japan, it's always been given a name, Quawks. And they make quawks the international standard for the purple parrots. And I didn't expect that we would get quawks in Donkey Kong Bananza, but not just quawks. The second purple parrot as well, who we give the fanon name Squawk as kind of a lark, but all the same, what the hell? Like, out of all physical appearances that you would expect in Donkey Kong Bananza, I wouldn't have expected, oh yeah, Donkey Kong, Cranky Kong, Rambi, Diddy, Dixie, Squawks, and King K. Rool, and oh yeah, Quawks and the other purple parrot as well.
It's so hard not to just keep repeating how impressed I am with the, like, ridiculous detail.
Yeah.
Of like, and the fact that it's not 1, but 2.
It's 2.
Like, that's so specific. Like, it's not just, oh, yeah, because there was a purple one. It's like, well, there's the purple, but at one point you do see 2 of them. So technically 2 of them do exist at once.
And just knowing how far down the rabbit hole the Bananza devs are, and we had heard about this in the years prior to Bananza being officially announced, is, the people making this at EPD, big Donkey Kong fans. And seeing this, and seeing this little detail that most people would not pick up on, But then you get hardcore sickos like us, like, look, two purple parrots, two! And we don't see these purple parrots around the island. They are not part of the quote-unquote squawks that we can interact with and have them, like, reset the statues if you move them around or put them in a banana horde cave and freeze your game. These are just in the flock of parrots above in the sky. It's such a small, most people will never see this kind of detail except for the hardcore obsessives. And it's just amazing to me. And I don't doubt whatsoever that it is a deliberate reference to Parachute Panic.
Absolutely. Well, this is a game by freaks for freaks.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And like just having squawks, and we'll call it squawk, in Bananza, like that would have been even bigger for me than King K. Rool, quite honestly. I'm probably the only person who could say that, but to have the two purple pairs acknowledged in such a way after so long, sure, like that would have been enough for me in this DLC. If there were no other references or homages or Easter eggs in this DLC, that would have been enough for me. And I would have been like, I have been seen. I have been acknowledged by my people. Oh, thank God. And there's more though. There are more details related to the animal buddies throughout DK Island. And this is a very small detail. It didn't take me, it didn't take me a long time to notice this, but it did take me longer than some of the other details I cottoned on to. So around the Congo beach in the sand, there are various animal buddies and for some reason naughties sketched into the sand. And you're walking around and you're like, what's that? And it's like, oh, that is a frog. That is a representation of Winky. Or that's a representation of Glimmer the anglerfish. That's a naughty. That's a swordfish. That's another Glimmer. And that's Clapper the seal.
So I had no idea that these were there. And until maybe last night.
Yeah.
Like 1 a.m. when I was just like, cause I stayed up and was just walking around the island, taking it in and really making sure all the, the thoughts were fresh in my brain for today. And as I was like, okay, all right, I need to wrap up. I need to get some sleep. I was just like setting down my Switch and I looked at the sand and I think I saw, the swordfish or the most likely an on guard one. And I immediately picked it back up and was like, huh? And started walking around the beach and looking for other ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't expecting such a late game Clapper reference. And for those keeping track now, this means that every Kong and animal buddy sans Wrinkly from the first two Donkey Kong Country games is acknowledged in some way in Donkey Kong Bonanza.
I wonder if they had a bulletin board in the development room that just had a list of every possible, like, character, animal buddy, and things like that. And they're like, okay, we have to make sure we put a pin in each one of these.
Yeah.
And then they finished the game, looked at the list, saw there was a handful of them that weren't there, and were like, okay, we got to put them on the island. Let's make some DLC.
Yeah, I am disappointed there is no Wrinkly Kong tomb or mausoleum or little grave site. Or like an old Wrinkly door for that matter. They don't reference Wrinkly at all throughout Bonanza. And I think it's a more glaring omission than even Kiddy Kong. But yeah, I would have liked like Ellie to have been referenced, or Perry the Parallel Bird. We do get Banana Bird references though, so it's not like they don't give DKC3 some love. There's also like the Lurchins, the Lurchin fossil as well, and like I'm not upset. I'm astounded, really, that we got all of the character nods that we did.
Yeah. I do, I would have loved to have seen Ellie. Just, I have such a soft spot for her because of my connection with DKC3. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I was mostly shocked that she didn't have some sort of reference in the layer with, like, where you get the elephant Bananza. I kind of figured that was like a shoe-in for like a bigger like lean towards it.
Right. Like Radley got some nods in the game and in the Radiance layer with the snakes. But yeah, Ellie, it felt more like a reference to Taj from Diddy Kong Racing than it did Ellie. Yeah. Even though the elephant Bananza does have the sucking powers, which is kind of, Ellie, but anyway, also carved in the sand, there are bananas in front of the like cave entrance, and there are also barrel cannons carved into the sand that do point towards one of the bonus stages, like the arrow barrel cannons. And if you follow them, it takes you to a bonus stage, which I thought was kind of clever. Kind of like
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, kind of like a play on what a barrel cannon might do in the original Country games, or.
Oh,
yeah,
that's really creative. So it's still like you're taking the bonus barrel in its own way.
Yeah, or you're getting blasted to the bonus barrel from other barrel cannons. Yeah, it was a neat little touch, and I did appreciate that. Even if they didn't carve Ellie or Perry into the sand, I was still very, very happy with all of the little blink and you'll miss it Easter eggs beneath your feet. Speaking of beneath your feet, Donkey Kong 64's various pads, probably the banana ports, are scattered around DK Islands. The border, the kind of rim around them of the bananas is visible, and it's clearly supposed to be from that game. They do appear throughout DK Island. They're generally underneath where permanent fixtures that shouldn't be destroyed are located, or where like a green parrot, a squawks, might be hovering, or something in the landscape that isn't to be destroyed or touched. That's where they put these pads. And they are much older than DK64, like the squawks barrel. It has shown wear and tear. They're slightly corroded. I think they're covered in moss now.
So I wonder, like, at some point I should map out the different locations of these to see how much which it probably won't, but I'd like to dream it would match up a bit with some of the general teleportation points in DK64.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I dream to see that big zipper banana again.
Yeah, it really, like, it could be those, or it could be some of the other pads that you use, like in relation to Cranky's potions. But yeah, it's clear that's what the intent is supposed to be, even though the top of them have a generic DK on them, which I assume might be what they all have just underneath the label that used to be on them, be it a big number or Donkey Kong's face or whatever.
Yeah, that's just the generic base for one, and then you get the vinyl sticker that goes over it off of that. Cranky probably went to decalgirl.com or something like that and bought a bunch of ones with numbers.
And also around DK Island, various ambient wildlife, all similar to ones we've seen before. However, they don't have the jewels on them that the underground world little animals have on them. So you'll see like rats in the cave, you'll see crabs on the beach, fish in the water, you also see some bats, but they also have butterflies. And yeah, I just loved how robust it all felt, how like it did feel like a living place full of wildlife beyond just the Kongs.
Yeah, they've put a lot of effort into making the island feel alive, and especially not just like now that you are back at the island, you can start doing things and existing in it. Like, it feels like it's been waiting for you the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Whole
also
living,
really
breathing ecosystem.
love the crab. There's one crab in particular, and it's hiding in the upturned runaway minecart down on the beach. It's also really cool because this minecart it's hiding in is not the same kind of minecart that you can ride around Donkey Kong Island, the Retro Studios minecart, which we'll discuss. This is the old rare style minecart. Specifically, I think it's Donkey Kong 64. It's got the little handle on the front and back, and that is, of course, not in use anymore. They have been replaced with the retro minecarts on the island, and this has capsized long ago and just kind of embedded itself in the beach. And it just like made it itself at home inside of it.
He's got a little spot.
He's always there. Like, I always go back and he's there, and I just love that detail. And I also love that there is just a discarded minecart, given how many minecarts there are on Donkey Kong Island. Of course, there's one that had a grisly accident, and it just, like, went all the way down to the beach and probably killed whoever was inside, maybe Wrinkly Kong.
Perhaps if you notice, there's a detail that I noticed on this overturned one where you could see handprints.
Oh, yeah.
On the inside of it. Like, and maybe that's just from where DK was using it, but who knows? Like, you could see where someone stood on it, and I think that you could see the back part of their feet as well.
So I need to get some high-res screenshots of this, see if I can see any fingerprints, compare them to past renders, and we can maybe have a complete match for which Kong suffered this fate.
There we go. I like that idea. Getting some hyper-analyzing. A little bit of CSI work.
Just Andre points out, the circle of bananas etched in the sand too is in the same configuration as the central hub of warp pads near the front of DK Isle in DK64. Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, that's where they were located.
Man, they really went all out on the specifically with the DK64 stuff for this DLC.
Yeah, I know. But it wasn't a shutout for returns because the minecarts are modeled after the retro era. And there is a minecart.
Big eyes.
Yep, the big eyes. We all remember that render they released earlier this year, the new render of Donkey and Diddy, the last render of the old design for Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong in the minecarts. And yeah, like it is a very iconic design, especially now with the theme park, you know, and you can use this minecart that runs around DK Island, like through the caves. It's just a fun little feature. And, you know, it might be quicker, especially when you're doing Emerald Rush, to take the minecart. But I like that they put it in there. I like that it is a traditional minecart and not one of the Underground World minecarts. And I also really love that there are various Easter eggs around the track. And if you just hop out of the track and walk around, you can really take it in. For example, there are miner helmets, pickaxes, and shovels. And these miner helmets, the hard hats, they are one-to-one visually identical to the ones worn by the mole miners in Retro's games.
I feel like with each like character and animal reference on this island, it's just going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, no one's picking up Bananza going, oh man, I hope the mole miners are in this, man. That's a make or break for me.
I mean, the mole miners were in the Lego sets. The mole miners do
true.
The mole miners do appear in the theme park, so it is cool that they do get acknowledged, even if this does lean way more heavy into the rare stuff. They are acknowledging that this is and has been a big part of DK's ecosystem for the past 15 years.
Gosh.
Also,
history piece after history piece.
Yeah, speaking of history pieces, Espresso lost a shoe. along the mine track.
I never noticed that one.
Yeah, there's one solitary sneaker. It is Espresso's sneaker. Of course, we had already gotten a reference to this in Forest Lair. The Ostrich Elder is wearing a pair of sneakers that look identical, except much larger, to Espresso's sneakers. And then in New Donk City, there is an ad for these sneakers as well. So this is the third reference to Espresso's shoes in Bananza.
It makes me wonder, do we think that is legitimately like our Espresso's shoe, or did Donkey Kong get caught up in the fad and buy a pair for himself and then realize they don't fit?
I like to think this is just one of Espresso's old pairs, and Espresso lost it while going through this mine shaft on some adventure and has since gotten replacements. But this is very, very dirty and old, so it's been here a while.
Mm-hmm. Almost like a relic. Got dug up in the dirt.
Yeah. Also, there is a traditional nearing the end of level sign, the red arrow on the wooden board, along the minecart, as well as it exits the cave and turns around the waterfall at the back of the island.
I like that. I wonder what made them choose that specific spot to make it feel like end of the level. But, I mean, they probably just put it there because they wanted to have a cute spot for it. Because the minecart goes on for like a moment or a little while after that. Not very long, but...
Yeah, I mean, these also appear in the challenge courses that are styled after the Donkey Kong Country games, and so I do like that they worked it in to Donkey Kong, like that and the Kong's Banana Horde sign. Just there's so many things that you didn't expect to see again, and to have it celebrated in such a way, and it's such like this indelible part of Donkey Kong Island, and I'm just pleased it's there. I remember when it was a huge deal that Payon included these signs in a Jungle Climber, and we were like, oh my god, the signs!
What can I say? We're easy to please, just stay true to like the history, and it does well. It's like what you talked about with the items in the shop, about these signs in the Kong Horde, the Banana Horde sign. Mm-hmm. The fact that all of it really is just lifted straight from it, and it's done with care. It's done with a little wear and tear, a little bit more depth, just because we have higher fidelity on these graphics, and it doesn't try to reimagine a whole bunch of it. It just accepts it as, we have these big, goofy red arrow signs plastered all over the place. That's what he likes.
And
that's how he styles his island.
It's Donkey Kong iconography, and it's treating it with the same reverence that Mario would always be afforded. And that's all we really wanted. I mean, you don't have to reinvent Donkey Kong every single time it shifts development houses, every single time there is a gap between releases. Like, lean into the old stuff. There are fans of the old stuff, and I think that's what Nintendo has learned, but also there are now people who work at Nintendo who are among us, who feel the same way. So, yeah. Speaking of bringing back old stuff, the ACM palm trees are back.
Oh, this... I think more than almost any item on the island was the thing that like gave me the warmest feeling of those big, almost plasticky 3D modeled palm trees.
And like this was the thing in the initial Bananza trailer that a lot of us, before we saw the naughty fossil, we were like, oh my, well, there's that at least. Those palm trees are referenced. We didn't expect those to ever come back. And to actually be here physically on Donkey Kong Island. And I mean, these aren't the only palm trees. There is a diversity of like tree there. But to actually have these brought back and acknowledged as part of the ecosystem, like it really does, I think, like you said, more than anything, make you feel like this is the same place that we have been visiting since 1994. If you're old enough to have been around there, but at the very least that we have been visiting since we've played the Donkey Kong games and gone back and experienced the library.
Exactly. It's outside of maybe the house, this is my favorite place to just spend time walking around, or even just kicking back to the music and enjoying it, because it feels like, you mentioned this earlier on about how even though it's not a huge space, it feels so dense and intentional that you walk in and then you're just instantly in like the depths of these trees. And you're like lost in the same graphics that you were as a kid back in the day.
It's the first time I've ever felt like I have been in the Congo jungle in a 3D space. And yeah, just hearing the animal noises, and like, you just get the sense that this is such a full jungle, and there are so many things lurking in the bushes that we can't see. So many other monkeys hanging out in the trees, you know? And yeah, it really just tricks the brain into thinking this is it. This is exactly what I've daydreamed about since playing the original trilogy and fantasizing about what Donkey Kong would look and feel like on the N64.
It is. This entire island really is just one giant way of saying, welcome home.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some new details throughout DK Island, some liberties that have been taken by this team, which they've earned it. I'm not mad about this. So the Kong temple architecture throughout DK Island, some of these ruins, they kind of can mesh with what Retro laid down for what like the old Kong temples look like. And, you know, there isn't much there though. It really is kind of going for its own style compared to what Retro did. Although, like I said, if you squint, it's all kind of similar. But there's a new banana, like, sigil that appears throughout all of the architecture. And in fact, on the base of the statues that Squawks will fish out of the ocean, you'll also see this, like, dual curved banana emblem that is just used throughout all the architecture. And I really hate to say it kind of looks like a banana swastika, because it doesn't, but that's where my brain went initially. I was like, wait, what is that? And yeah, this is some sort of emblem of the ancient Kongs, or maybe even the Tiki Tech tribe, if we're willing to go that far.
I could see that. I don't know. There's something about the fact that there's such a hard bend on the bananas that I don't know why that makes me feel so weird. The fact that it's like got right angles on it. And at this point, I'm nitpicking to such a specific degree that like I need to back off and remember it's artistic design. It's so angular.
I think it's like it's going for almost an Ouroboros or like a yin and yang type thing. Like the duality of bananas. I don't really know what it's trying to convey to me, but yeah, it is everywhere. And I really like that this could be kind of this ancient symbol.
I love the idea of the yin yang, sort of like two sides, two pieces, two nanners, being this ancient representation of, you know, you mentioned the Tiki Tech tribe, and I could see how it connects to that in a way, but I tie it, like, personally, it makes me think of, like, the lineage of the Kongs, like, almost like a crest, which I guess the DK is definitely their crest, but to push on that a little bit, Cranky didn't really wear the big DK iconography. Like, that wasn't his thing.
I mean, retconned a little bit, because Donkey Kong 94 did establish he wore the tie.
Oh, that's true. DK94 did put him in the tie, didn't it? Ooh, yeah. I thought I had a whole point there.
No, but you could even read this as like duality between Kong and nature, like be at one with the banana, or I don't know. I could concoct some sort of bullshit rationale behind this, but it wouldn't mean anything. There is also a really neat touch that this, I think, took me the longest to recognize. It was like a week or two into playing this. It was maybe like rushing around with Emerald Rush that I really actually noticed this. Along the bases of several of the temple mounds throughout the main island and the islets, there are representations of animals carved into the base. Rhinos, swordfish, and parrots.
That's right. Oh, it's a parrot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I will admit, I was looking at that one going, is it a barrel? Is it a box? I don't know why I couldn't decipher the parrot on that. Maybe I have the problem with angular designs here and I need to go to some sort of class to figure it out.
It's a very blocky parrot. It's Lego squawks.
It's beautiful how much of this game, even though you don't really have animal buddies, like the Bananzas are clearly like pulling from that sort of concept, but the fact that like the classic animal buddies and just the standard tie to the animal kingdom is so aggressively represented, between legitimate animals being all across the world to being carved into statues, being carved into walls, being drawn in the sand. Like, there's just this deep appreciation and message of nature and creatures and the greater world that gets put on such a display. Even if they're like, yes, we know that you can't ride Ramby in this one outside of the racing. You know, you're not getting on guard to go through it, but they're like, we know. And we still want to show how important that is, not only to the player, but also just in DK's world, how prominent and respected just the animal kingdom is.
And yeah, like that acknowledgement of the importance of the animal buddies and their relationship with the Kongs, that is something I have longed for since even the tail end of the Rare era, where they were de-emphasized. And I think that acknowledgement of how important it is to the Kongs, but also how important it is to us fans, and how much we long for that. Like, that is really nice to see. Like you said, Bananza didn't do a whole lot more with the animal buddies, but it did acknowledge them, and it did acknowledge their importance. And that's a good starting point. That is a good building block to rebuild their role in the series.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk really quick. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time about this because this is a video I'm going to do in the future. I want to talk about the layout of the island and how it roughly corresponds to past games. We're not getting into minutia here, don't worry. I know you don't have a whole lot of time to spend with me, but for maybe the first time in the history of the series, we actually have established cardinal directions for how DK Island is oriented and what orientation is actually facing. So we now know that the head of the mountain, the face of the island, is actually facing directly south. And the back of the island, what we've always referred to as the back of the island, is actually facing north. And I've considered this as a possibility over the years, but I wasn't quite sure. And then occasionally you're like, well, no, that doesn't feel right. But they do label it all here, I think out of convenience's sake, to prevent confusion, especially because Emerald Rush will give you like the void goals and you have to go to a location quickly, and to communicate that, it's just easier to say east and west, you know. And does this 101% line up with past games, such as every time we've seen a sunset? Probably not, but close enough.
You know, I think that they should have just doubled down and just given you like really specific like latitude coordinates in the void things. You know, that's okay. You know, it's the challenge. You got to learn it.
Yeah.
You're telling me this island was perfectly built to face the south? I don't know about that.
Well, I do like generally the way it is laid out here, and we have the closest name now for the waterfall that runs down the back Reed north side of the island that was established in DK64. It's called Mountain Falls, which I don't know if that is just more of a vague description, but it's the closest name we have, so I'm going with it for now.
Yeah, it's the name we got. That's something that I didn't read the location names as much during the Void Goals. Not to get too much on the Emerald Rush thing. I would usually just either barrel my way there. Oh, I realized I meant barrel as in running, but also I'd barrel my way there. And it wasn't probably until a few rounds in where I started realizing they had names, and then I would be like, oh, and then really pay attention because I want to like learn like these little tiny corners and crevices have like legitimate names now. And I sure, Mountain Falls. Yeah, it's a waterfall on a mountain. That's, it's no Shakespeare writing there, but it having a label like that, it's like, saying, it's one thing to be like, oh, the waterfall on the island's kind of cool versus, oh, I love Mountain Falls on DK Island. It's I don't know. There's an enrichment to that that's hard to explain.
No, exactly. That's why it's just an errant little detail for convenience's sake. So you can teleport there or warp barrel in Emerald Rush there faster. Or you just know what they're talking about. But yeah, I'm gonna run with it for now. So there's West Islet. And this actually corresponds exactly where the Banana Ferry Island was located in DK64. We don't see the Banana Ferry head there, but again, these are just kind of an overview depiction. Not every detail is going to be there, so I'm thinking this could be the Banana Ferry Island, or at least maybe the island that was like right above it in DK64.
You're actually completely rocking my world with this revelation. That's wow. So I could see maybe like with the banana fairies, because I mean, there's definitely some sort of, ethereal or magical ties to them. Maybe once they wrapped up their journey and the savings in DK64, maybe they just have the ability to snap their wings or something and move to a different island.
It could also just be cloaked
to a different place.
It could also be cloaked.
That's
like
true.
You only see it if you're allowed to see it, or if they're in crisis and they need Tiny Kong's assistance. But yeah, like I am open to the possibility at the least that this West Islet could be the Banana Ferry Island, because I was like thinking that was a bit of a curious omission considering how much of DK64 this is pulled from. But sure, maybe.
I would fully believe at this point, if we're talking down to the point where we're getting quacks, 2 of them. Yeah, I believe that this is an intentional Banana Ferry Island reference without them going, okay, well, we don't want to like put the banana fairies in this because that's a lot of work. And also like, how would you implement that right? But
you can't shrink down though, so you couldn't get in there.
Exactly. Well, maybe it's time for Pauline to get off your shoulders and go do something.
Grease yourself up, Pauline, and wiggle through there. See how the Banana Fairy
Yeah, we got enough
Princess is doing.
bananas.
Yeah. So there are also tuning fork checkpoints for the Northeast Islets. Here's a little fun bit. This actually potentially corresponds with the offshore islets where Orang-Utang Gang is located in Donkey Kong Country. And of course, we all remember the German Donkey Kong 64 website, which might be referenced in New Donk City with the tiny bank. That established that Lanky Kong is from Utan Island. Is Utan Island the same place where Orang-Utang Gang is located and the same place as the Northeast Islet in Donkey Kong Bananza? Yes. Absolutely, I am certain.
Okay, here's the thing. So, like you said, there's those events coming up for Bananza, and one of them is going to be a Lanky Kong statue.
Yes.
If that statue lands on this islet...
Oh my god. I'm gonna pee myself. I am... Oh god. I will freely urinate in my pants. And I will post a picture of it on the internet. That would be, now it has to be that. Oh my god. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to be thinking about that hard. And I'm also going to feel unbridled joy and a little bit of fear because I don't want to open Blue Sky and see your pee-pee pants. Or knowing my luck, I won't know, but I'll open Blue Sky and see the picture and be like, it's real!
Yeah.
My wife will be like, what are you talking about? Hyle beat his pants! You don't understand! This means something!
I'll make sure it's colored blue like in the diaper commercials, just for Lanky.
Just to really make it clear.
Yeah. So there's the Southwest Beach, which is the Congo Beach, the Jungle Ruins, which is the Congo Jungle, the Interior Mountain Cave, which is where you go through the little entrance on the south side of Donkey Kong Island underneath the mouth of the head, and there's the Interior Mountain Cave, and then there is Banandium Tone's Floating Islet. This fucker right here. Let me tell you what. I love the Fractones. I love pretty much every new character in this game. But Banandium Tone can get fucked.
This is probably the most frustrated I've been with a game in a while. Just as soon as I glanced through your show notes and just saw Bananium Tone, this fucker, and I'm like, yes. I'm so glad I'm not the only person who looked at this guy, attempted their puzzles, and I couldn't figure it out. I could not figure it out.
Yeah. So really quick, I want to talk about where Banandium Tone is located, because this is really cool. The Western Floating Islands. And a lot of people would see this and be like, Floating Islands in Donkey Kong Island? That's wrong. No, it's not, actually. Because Donkey Kong 64 established this as the general location of Fungi Forest. But also, arguably, the location of Chimpanzee Clouds from Donkey Kong Land, Cranky's Temple from Donkey Kong Barrel Blast / Jet Race, and Secret Seclusion from Tropical Freeze.
So, God, I can't wrap my head around the fact that basically every single one of these islands doesn't just have like a vague approximation, but most of them are almost direct reference locations to very specific places.
Yes. And it all mostly lines up if you squint really hard. And that's great. So Banandium Tone is a Fractone who has moved in, is taken residence on one of these floating islets, and has taken on the persona of an anthropomorphic banana not dissimilar to Xananap from Jungle Climber. Now, this would normally be a wonderful thing, and we would all celebrate this character, but as you said, what the hell? This is the most vague, the most frustrating challenge in Bananza. It is an 8-part puzzle that's centered around the banana glyphs that Banandium Tone is speaking.
Oh gosh, I was under the impression it was like a 3-puzzle thing.
It's an 8-part puzzle. Now, basically, each part of the puzzle is an entirely separate challenge. And you've just got to muddle your way through to getting the one banana glyph symbol, which is, it's a filled in yellow banana glyph. And then there are also 6 more banana glyphs that are white. And you don't really know what Banandium Tone is after. And I don't know how anybody legitimately solves this. Hats off to them. This is next level. This is an escape room mystery that nobody would ever actually escape from before the time runs out. I admittedly, I got through the first one somehow, which the first one was you punch him and you eventually cycle it to the yellow glyph and whatever. The second one, I didn't know what to do and nothing was working. So I did look it up. I was like, wait, am I just losing my mind? Is this actually anything? Or is this just one big piss take? And I would have never solved the second one. I would have never figured this out because you have to swing the Joy-Cons. And I don't play with Joy-Cons. I play with a Pro Controller or in handheld mode. So I didn't get this. I had to look it up.
I had to as well. And because I am both lazy and stubborn, I was like, I don't want to do that because I don't use my Joy-Cons. I've spent all the money on a Pro Controller. I'm going to use it. And I also have a grip on my Switch too. And I didn't want to take it off. I will tell you, this is not worth your time. But I learned that when you are just, pressing the punch button, he naturally alternates hands. So if you punch him with the correct hand to change one, you can then turn around, punch again to use up your other side punch to switch the hand if you need to alternate to change symbol. I spent too long on this.
Okay.
Too long. I then sort of kind of goofed my way into solving the second puzzle and was like, cool, I'm not doing that again.
And we're not going to get into every puzzle. You can look this up yourself, or you can try to figure it out. I might have figured out 2 or 3, or maybe 2.5 of them. And I cheated. I did look this up because I didn't know what they were after. And one of them is like, you have to play all the bonus stages, all 6 bonus stages in a precise order.
How would you ever know that?
This is harder than my puzzle for finding the missing episode of the Kongversation season 6, which nobody has legitimately done yet. But at least mine had a clear logic. Once you figure out what you're supposed to do, it all falls into place. This, I don't know how you would independently figure out all 8 puzzles. The 8th one is actually explained to you, but
okay.
Jeez.
So the thing that goes through my mind looking at this is back, if I was, back in the day being a kid playing this game, this is the sort of thing that I would be bringing to the lunch table like, guys, this has to do with stop and swap. This has to.
Yeah.
Like, it has every single thing that my little rotten brain would have spiraled off on. I mean, I made an entire speech to my friend circle at the time just about, like, how I think you can secretly get in the Flume of Doom hole outside of, like,
Sure.
Gruntyland or whatever, but, or Witchy World. I don't know where Gruntyland came from. But, like, it's so convoluted that it almost brings me this feeling of, like, old school Rare, where they would just put some ridiculously convoluted puzzles.
Yeah.
Just because they love to mess with people.
I would have thought this would have been something that, like, how Stop and Swap was unlocked, or how you got just, the ice key, like Beak Bomb, the different advent calendar stars outside of Freezy Peak in a certain order, and then run around 300 times backwards and, shit out an egg. But
that's basically what this is asking you to do.
Yeah, it is wild. I broke fairly early because I just wanted to be done with it. And, this is just a weird, super hard puzzle put in the DLC. It doesn't really matter. It's there for those who want the most absurd challenge possible. Hats off to anybody who actually legitimately solves this, but all you get from it is a new piece of neckwear. And it is the worst article of clothing in the entire game. Because it's not actually something Donkey Kong can, like, show off in a fashion show. It's the quick change tie. And you select this in your wardrobe, and it will immediately alter DK and Pauline's outfits at random, and Donkey Kong's fur color as well.
Which, like, it's novel is the best word I could give it. Like, if I finished this challenge, I feel like I would wear the randomizer tie, if anything, just because I'm like, well, I went through all that work. But I don't want to just have a bunch of random. I'm very particular about how I build my outfits.
Same.
In this game.
And it put Donkey Kong, for me, it put Donkey Kong into like this metallic cyan fur, and it gave him the treasure tie, and it gave him the fruity gum wildberry Pop-Tart zebra pants, and I'm just like, no. Absolutely not.
Eyesore.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely some clothing I bought for their perks, but I'm never gonna wear them.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was wearing trousers until I got to DK Island, and then I took the trousers off Donkey Kong. So unless I'm doing Emerald Rushes, Donkey Kong is now just burying his buttocks again because he's on his home island and he wants to run free and wild.
Let his fuzz dangle in the wind.
Really quick, I have a Banandium Tone theory. So Banandium Tone, that freak, he has they have a strange halting language, and they have an inability to convey what they actually want from you. Okay, so they will say, please play with us, like a horror movie apparition. And you then like interact with them, and they'll say, thank you, like a flower pot in Mad Monster Mansion.
This is the first thing I thought of when I saw it.
So I'm thinking Banandium Tone must have been one of the Fractones from the Planet Core who hadn't used language in quite some time. They got to the surface, they decided to live here, become a banana, and they speak in this very weird language. And that's why they're using the banana glyphs primarily, is they don't know much English.
I like this idea that though we only see a few glyphs, I like to think that there's maybe a full functional glyph language out there.
Oh, there is. There is. This is the glyph language that appears on the signs and is used as text in the underground world. Each glyph actually corresponds to a letter of the English alphabet, and you can like decipher what all this stuff says throughout the underground world.
I completely missed that. Okay, well, now I'm going to have to learn how to pronounce it, and I will go teach a college course on it and use that for language credits.
This is our Klingon, this and the Saurian language.
I did almost go to a very specific community college in my state because they had a Klingon class. That was like almost a deciding factor for me.
So this is really just up my own ass. Indulge me really quick, and then we're going to move on to the real stuff. Looking out from the western side of the island, so you'll see all these islets in the far distance, and this is around the full perimeter of the island. But I specifically looked out from the western side in particular because I wanted to see if I could fan wank the location of the Donkey Kong land worlds. So, for those who don't know, Donkey Kong Land, it starts in the Congo jungle, and it has the Gangplank Galleon there as well, and then it goes out to sea, and you've got Kremlantis, you've got the Monkey Mountains, which touch the Chimpanzee Clouds, and then you've got Big Ape City. And so, in my headcanon, it's always been these are islets off the coast of Donkey Kong Island. And it would be on the western side because you start in the Congo jungle where the Gangplank Galleon was located at the end of DKC. And also Donkey Konga 2, of all things, did establish that there is an islet off Donkey Kong Island that is both mountains and another one with cities or a city skyline on it. So I looked, and yes, there are 3 islets exactly where they would need to be to plausibly be the locations of Big Ape City, Monkey Mountains, and Kremlantis. And yes, I'm still arguing that Big Ape City and New Donk City are different locations because New Donk City has been established as taking place on the other side of the planet, while Big Ape is more of a local metropolis actually populated by Kongs. And that would also account for the fact that we can see a city in the distance in Bananza's opening in Ingot Isle before the cave-in.
I see. So you're thinking that the view from Ingot Isle is Big Ape City. not
I'm
New
saying
Donk.
it's intended to kind of suggest New Donk City and where the game's ultimately going to end. But I'm thinking from a logistical standpoint, it would have to be Big Ape City. Yes.
I agree with that. I also think it's crazy that we are now at two very important canon ties from Donkey Konga 2.
Donkey
That
Konga
is
2.
twice now that Donkey Konga 2.
Donkey Konga 2, talk about yin and yang. It is both the bane of my existence and it's also the glue that holds all of this together. And it's only appropriate, it's only fitting then that the DK Bongos do get a huge shrine to the north and a big sculpture that you can bounce off of.
As soon as I got through the first layer of sand and started bouncing on it, I just giggling.
Yeah.
I was giggling.
It's always frustrating in Emerald Rush when you get a void goal that's the DK Bongos because you're like, that's not worth my time. I can't teleport there directly, or I can't warp barrel there directly in Emerald Rush in this case. And it's always going to be some bullshit little emerald chunk, or it's going to be a buzzoid that's not going to and then I'm going to have to dive in the water to get all the emerald. Not worth it.
True. Something that I noticed about it, it has one little chunk of gold right in the middle connecting band.
Yep.
Because the way most players are going to collect it is they're going to walk up, stand in the middle, and clap.
Yep. It's also where the button was on the DK Bongos.
It's where the button was.
Yeah.
It made me so happy because I didn't notice that piece of gold when I went over to it for the first time. So instinctually, after bouncing on the bongos, I'm like, well, I'm going to clap. That's what you're supposed to do. And then it collected that piece of gold, and I was like, yeah, neat. I didn't expect payoff for it.
And this also ties in with the DK Bongos being an ancient relic. So it's really cool that they did get a reference to the bongos in there. There's your Konga, arguably Jungle Beat reference, but yeah, it's all eras except really Payon are touched upon here on DK Island. But you might say
you could say it didn't really pay off.
you might say Banandium Tone is maybe a Xananab reference. I think it's a stretch. I think it's just an anthropomorphic banana creature, but yeah.
True. But maybe it is. I mean, I don't even know if anything can be a stretch at this point, between island layouts, between looking off the west coast, and just how much lines up in this game. If it was a few things here and there, it'd be like, oh yeah, I can try to believe that. But the fact that so much of it lines up, so much of it.
Yeah.
And there's very, very little refuting it. I wouldn't be shocked if it's a reference.
Maybe. But we've also got, other fractones, as I said, living just their fractony lives around DK Island. Constructones have moved in. You can build a couple zip lines. You've got all these various underground world pieces of architecture, like I said, the tuning forks, clothing closets. The barrel cannons are Ingot Isle barrel cannons or the underground world barrel cannons, depending on where you think the origin point of those are. You've got the platforms you can elevate that have the Bananergy pouring out of them, the little handprints on them. And you've also got Banandium melons now growing or planted on DK Island, not a native species. Hope they're not invasive. And yeah, also Fractones have built, as you said, 2 DJ stands, 2 DJ booths on both the north side and the south side of DK Island. And you can change the music you listen to and switch out the disc. The disc for DK Island also is a recreation of the map screen from Donkey Kong Country. And you've even got the little scroll. In that game, it said Donkey Kong Country, but here it says Donkey Kong Island.
All those little things. I love the music because as soon as I was willing to part listening to the DK Island theme, I went straight to, I think the official name is 2D Challenge Course 1.
Mm-hmm.
But just, the Jungle Japes music and just running around and smashing, collecting gold and riding the minecart while that was blasting in the background. There's nothing like it.
You could also, if you are so inclined, put on the DK Artist disc and hear the Donkey Kong Country map screen music.
You're right. I totally forgot about that too. Oh, I'm going to do that.
It was.
I'm walking away from this, like having like 17 more things. I'm like, I got to go double check the stuff on the sand again. I got to go look at where all the bananas are placed on this and where the carvings are. Like, I'm going to immediately probably go and dig back into this game after we're done.
It's also fun to put on the Banandium Tower music, which is the Gangplank Galleon theme, and go out to the Gangplank Galleon wreckage. Yes. Mm-hmm. Save this for last. The Gangplank Galleon wreckage. I always wanted the Gangplank Galleon to return. In fact, I am sure I am on record across the many years of the Kongversation saying that. I love the Gangplank Galleon as a ship, as a location, as implausible it would be. In Donkey Kong Country 2, those masks don't make any sense, but whatever. And I've always wanted it to come back, so it is a bit sad that it is officially scuttled in the lore. It's no longer a working vessel, although it did have a big breach in its hull in Country 2 and Land 2, but you can patch that, you can fix it. But I never truly expected it back at all. So to have it come back, and in this way it can remain a location, a permanent location, just off of DK Island, well, I'll take it.
I'll take it too. It's sort of that thing where, say, a few years down the line we get another, push for a country game, 2D style platformer. Keep this on the world map. Use some version of this DK Island for the world map and give us some like sunken ship levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stuff like that. Like there's ways to keep the Galleon alive while still keeping the history of its wreckage, strewn across DK Island.
I'm honestly just relieved that this has confirmed that Gloomy Galleon isn't the Gangplank Galleon, because at the very least, this is above the surface, and you can do more with it as a location in a future game than I think Gloomy Galleon allowed.
It all ties back to the future-proofing. Like,
yeah.
The islands, the locations, the designs, the temples, the placement, just the specific structure of this wreckage. Like, it's all just this one beautiful setup for who knows what's next.
Yeah, I just like the idea, too, that the Gangplank Galleon crashed here at some point, and it was just permanently abandoned. And oh my god, like, the trim around, like, the fabric around the Galleon and the captain's cabin windows are the same from DKC2. And like, that's such a great detail. I don't even mind that the new Kremlin crew logo has been retroactively inserted above the captain's cabin and on the ship's wheel, because we do have the Kremlin Jolly Roger, the most iconic, beloved, like, imagery, insignia related to the Kremlins by the fans. It is there on the tattered sails. What a sight for sore eyes this thing is.
I know. Standing prouder than ever, too. I wonder if they came back and replaced the logo on there at some point out of some sort of like passive-aggressive like marking of the territory.
I think, like, you can fan wank this as always existing. In fact, you could even squint and say that the, like, emblem that was seen during the Paeon era, like on the critters' belts or whatever, might have been this. We just didn't see it in full detail, like the little crown on the top. But, it's fine. It's one of those things that I like, that the Kremlin crew has its own insignia, and I like that the Kremlin naval forces, the piratical wing of the Kremlin crew, has the Jolly Roger. I like that both can coexist.
I do too. I really like the detail of the lanterns having like K. Rool's crown just right on top of them. It's like just that little tiny detail where like this whole ship like, it is steeped in his ego. Just absolutely steeped in it.
Mm-hmm. The detail I did not expect. Probably the most wild, ludicrous detail in this entire DLC. It's a one-off. It's at the back of the ship. It's an old Donkey Kong Country 2 end-of-level target.
I didn't even piece that one together. Makes me want to turn my hat backwards and get my stereo and start bumping some tunes.
I could not believe this. I probably stared at this for a solid minute trying to process if what I was seeing was actually what I was seeing. And yeah, just like the Squawks barrel, this is aged. It's a little bit muddy. It's worn, but it is an end-of-level target. And I just love this notion that, yes, like, if this is an overview, if this isn't actually to scale, then potentially this Gangplank Galleon might be full of stuff like this. But here is this little visual evidence, this proof that this is the same Gangplank Galleon that Diddy and Dixie adventured across in DKC 2.
Yeah, I wonder, like, how those, like, targets end up there, and then they're used, levels finished, and it just got thrown on. Is it the thing where they were there ahead of time, or was K. Rool just plundering all these targets because he was like, yeah, I want some of that, I want some of the barrels, I want some of the bananas.
Maybe these end-of-level targets were a way for, like, the Kremlins to ration supplies, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, you're entitled to one bunch of bananas if you can hit this target from a great enough height. It doesn't make any sense, but the fact that it's even acknowledged at all, it's like, you know,
and I like that it's resting up against a pole, so you're almost expecting to see a flag go up as soon as you jump on it.
Well, speaking of flags, I was just about to say, the Super Mario series, you know, you always see flag poles, and, like, the fact that we are getting that in just this small little reference, my God. And, of course, there is the figurehead, the iconic figurehead of the Gangplank Galleon. So this is split off from the main ship. It's on the other side of the warp gong, the little islet with the warp gong. You can even see the anchor in the water has, like, fallen astray. But this figurehead, it's kind of been reimagined a little bit. It seems like they've given it something that's visually reminiscent of K. Rool's bulging eye, although it's kind of been fudged a little bit. It's kind of halfway between just the generic Kremlin figurehead and something that's maybe more reminiscent of K. Rool, but you can plausibly read it one way or the other. But it's no longer gold. It's been rusted. It's been corroded. It's lost its golden luster, which suggests to me this was actually never a gold figurehead. It was just painted gold. And
I fully believe that.
Yeah, it's fool's gold, which is just a perfect metaphor for King K. Rool. But yeah, it's also like there's plants, there's like almost like this kudzu growing on the ship and in the mouth of the figurehead. So many great details. Oh my God.
Sorry, hang on. Sneeze? No, we're good. Okay. Woo. I like that they kind of went for that halfway design between adding some K. Rool features to the figurehead without just straight up making it like a 1-to-1 model of him.
Right.
Because it does allow sort of that, you know, oh, maybe in the older games it was just a little less detail, so we didn't quite notice that they had the bulging eye or something like that. They do a good job of adding new facets to it and without completely scraping everything else away.
Yeah, nothing overrides the past. It might add further context to it, but it doesn't just erase it or say we can do it better. And I really do appreciate that. Just Andre in a live stream says, this was the thing, because of course I also went to the Galleon straight away, that made me bust out photo mode and immediately go on a photography spree across Donkey Kong Island, such that it took me forever to actually touch Emerald Rush, because playing DK Island Tourist just became the draw of the DLC for me. And I think you are in the same boat, broken that it may be, as Miles and myself, because we,
Yes.
I think any hardcore Donkey Kong freak, fetishist, sicko, if you will, would have gotten the same enjoyments out of this as you're describing. This is a love letter that Donkey Kong fans have longed for years. I have been on record so many times in the interim between Tropical Freeze and now, saying, why can't we get this? Why can't we get this level of fan service? What is wrong with our series? What is wrong with what we like? It's just as beloved as everything else. It's just been forgotten about because it doesn't get this level of fan service. And here we are. And my God, and to speak to just Andre's point, if you talk to any of the rhinos around DK Island, called Rambies colloquially, but, there's only one true Rambi, and it is the one with the pack saddle near DK's treehouse. But if you talk to them, they're scattered at various scenic points around DK Island, and they don't have dialogue. Don't worry, no posh Rambi here, but they will be able to bring Diddy, Dixie, and Cranky to that specific spot on DK Island or the Gangplank Galleon and arrange a group photo that you can then pose with the Kongs. And I really, really like this touch. I really like that they knew fans would be navel gazing. Fans would be obsessively taking screenshots of all of this, and they provided for us.
They do. I want to note that everyone has a little comment to make for the photos. I'm looking here, and Diddy says oh, group photo time, and Dixie says everybody say banana peel, and of course Cranky says go on, enter photo mode with the down button and press capture to take a snapshot. Once again,
Right.
Still making sure it's his job to break the fourth wall
Yep.
before anybody else can.
Yep. It's such a nice little detail, and I have probably taken more pictures on the Gangplank Galleon than any other location. I've busted out the sepia tones. I've tried the different filters, and it's a really lovely thing to have, and I love the screenshot mode in this game, or photo mode. It's such a wonderful little thing that I know is standard place. It's common in games today, but being the starved DKU fan that I am, having all of these features in an honest to log Donkey Kong game, it's a treat. It's a delight.
It's a buffet. It's
is.
like walking in as a kid to an all you can eat, and your parents going, yeah, go for the dessert table, just have fun.
So, talking about the Rambies, we explained the Rambi colloquialism. We hand-waved it away on the Racing Layer episode that Cameron and I did. And we were like, well, it kind of makes sense why they would become to be known as Rambies there. But here, all the green parrots are referred to as squawks. And unlike Rambi, we don't have a clear distinction of which squawks is our squawks. Because, yes, plausibly, it's the squawks in Squawk's hut. But then there's also another green parrot hanging out with the Kongs and Rambi Prime by DK's treehouse. So which squawks is the real squawks? Why are they all being called squawks? Well, I just want to say, I do believe that the squawks in Squawk's hut is Squawk's Prime, because that's the squawks that would have a relationship with Funky, and if we can trace Squawk's hut to Funky, there you go. But why is that other green parrot so chummy with the other Kongs? Well, we have to allow for the possibility that there might be more than one green parrot who is chummy with the Kongs. I mean, if there can be two purple parrots, why not another green parrot that we've never really gotten to know? Just like those animals in Returns, the giraffe and the zebra and the elephant that's not Ellie, and the squirrel. It's like, who the hell are all of you? You know, the Kongs befriend lots of animals. They just don't necessarily go along with them on their adventures. So we might have to come up with a fanon name for at least that other Squawks hanging out by the treehouse. Quack? That's so dumb. But I don't know. It's notable, though.
Sock?
Fox. Fake Squawks.
Like spelled Fauxs.
Yes,
Fox.
yeah, like faux Squawks, but but then that just sounds like Fox, but that's what makes it delightful, nonetheless. So it is notable that the two characters who really refer to them all as Squawks are Pauline, and you could understand why she would be under that delusion, and Void Kong, who is really an outsider to the primary Kong culture. It's also worth noting, and this will come up in the Emerald Rush episode, Void has seemingly adopted, i.e. stolen, one of the green parrots for himself and given him the moniker of Squawky Talkie. So, you know, we might have to come up with names for all these green parrots beyond just Squawks, is what I'm saying.
That'll be a good episode.
You know, maybe we won't get into it on the Emerald Rush episode, but we will get into everything Void's up to, Squawky Talkie, and the game's true final ending for now on the Emerald Rush episode that will conclude our Season 13 Bananza Deep Dives. To be continued there. But Miles, we do have some calls to take.
Yes, we do.
And if you can stick around to play them, we'll play them.
Absolutely.
Great. Terrific. Let's play our first call. I'm talking really slow because I need to pull it up. All right, let's play our first call.
Hello, Miles. Hello, Hyle. This is Crawlinax calling in for the DK Island episode. And this is just, in general, a mildly good time. I think just like a positive experience that's kind of overshadowed by the context surrounding it. Overall, the island itself is fun. You know, lots of little references scattered around. It's pretty well thoughtfully designed too, both for like Emerald Rush, which that's another episode, so I'm not going to touch on that too much. But also the Void Kong boss fight you can do here that's just like completely optional and isn't like related to anything. But legitimately like circumventing the entire island while trying to clear this boss could be a new appreciation for how the whole thing is laid out, not only as like a little reference factory, but also as a place to play around it. However, this is also like, it's marketed as like half of a $20 DLC expansion that was very obviously finished along with the main game, since, you know, it came out 2 months later. I'm not talking about Emerald Rush in detail, again, that's another episode, but if somebody wants to buy this DLC, Emerald Rush is going to be the bulk of the value. If you like the Emerald Rush gameplay loop, then maybe this could be worth it to you, but the account itself is kind of empty without it, so the way that it's positioned kind of, it feels a little bit scummy, even if it's overall just like a good thing to have. I would rather have this be an option than not. But we saw redesigned Candy Kong here, so I guess that's just a win for everybody. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the call. I will say, yes, DK Island is immaculately designed, and that becomes apparent when you're trying to learn the layout in Emerald Rush and learning how you can traverse it quickly. I would say this is the best Emerald Rush course because it was designed with Emerald Rush in mind.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that. But beyond just being a place to like go down memory lane, it's very much built so like more often than not, I would use the warp barrels during the Emerald Rush if I needed to. But on the island, I will just forge a path because it's like, oh, I can hop on the mine cart and I can ride it down here. I can jump over to this. Yeah, and there's a lot of flow in the way that it's designed.
Yeah, it's great. This is probably the best time to be had with Emerald Rush. But I will say, though, you said this was developed alongside the main game. I don't think that's necessarily true. And because from what I've heard, Bananza was actually complete like a year prior to the Switch 2 launching. They've had it done for a long time. This has been in development since the original Switch, since the late 2010s. They were done with it. So the DLC came about later, and that's why it was released so soon after, not because they developed it at the same time. It's because they had so much time to kill between Bananza being complete and the launch of the Switch 2. So in that light, I don't think it's as scummy as you were saying. I think it's actually just a special perk. And here's the thing. It's all optional, right? You've got a complete experience without the DLC. I don't mind that the DLC is $19.99. I've more than gotten the value out of the DLC. And yeah, maybe DK Island itself isn't satisfying unless you are a hardcore Donkey Kong pervert. But I think Emerald Rush more than has the value. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't really get into all this price scraping that so many people do. I think video games are astonishingly cheap considering what they offer and the amount of time that goes into them. It's kind of wild to me that we've paid as little as we have for video games for as long as we have. That's just my controversial take, though.
No, I can kind of get behind that too, and we can get into markets and pricing and all this stuff that's so out of my purview that I'm not smart enough to comment on it. But it's tough because I don't know, with games, especially with like DLC and stuff like that, I tackle it with, does this feel like it's emotionally worth it to me or financially worth it to me personally? Especially like you said, this DLC, it's great. It's fun. It adds a lot, but it isn't a requirement. Like you said, Bananza is a complete experience. So you could play it from beginning to end on its own, and you're not missing out on like aggressively important, details or plot beats. There's just some bonus costumes, a bonus mode, and some other extra stuff. So if you go, yeah, I don't want to shell out the $20 for that. That's not worth it to me. You're not like missing out on a giant core experience. Like a lot of games, their DLC is like the actual end of the game.
Right. Yeah. And, because of that, yeah, it's not like Bananza 1.5 or whatever. Like, it's not like a whole mini story unto itself. But I'm so satisfied because you said the emotional resonance of it more than makes up for it. And I think it is there for the Donkey Kong fans. I think a lot of people who might not get that, some people call it nostalgia, but for me, it's homecoming, as you said. It is a celebration of all these things that have been left aside and have been overlooked for a fandom that has been dismissed or they weren't even aware existed for the longest time. So yeah, I don't have a problem with the pricing, but I'll say a little bit more about it when we wrap it up. But yeah, it was more than worth it for me. Your mileage may vary. I mean, I can't say what is worth it for you. It's all subjective, and you're gonna have to look at this and make that decision for yourself.
Exactly.
All right, let's play our second call.
Alrighty.
Hello, DK9. This is Prowler of the Stars calling in about DK Island. Not the terrific Emerald Rush mode yet. Spoilers, it's great. I don't really have a big thesis with this call, I suppose. Well, or not really an original one. I kind of already went off on length on the Planet Core episode and in previous calls just about like, oh, how great it was that, like, Bananza was bringing everything together, like, from different eras and stuff like that. But, one of the things mentioned, shout out, by the way, to Angry Ancestor. I loved your call last episode to Hyle. You literally said my exact thoughts. Shout out to the two Claires and Chocolate Milk Drinker for being the Retro Studios fans. We need to stick together. But no, it was brought up how, the Retro Studios references were a bit smaller in Bananza, and I was fine with that, and I said it as much. because I recognize that, there's theme park and the games have been around for a bit, and unlike the Country Trilogy and 64, like, Returns and Tropical Freeze, like, they're not seen as, like, the retro classics yet, so I understand. But, it warmed my heart that, for Courtney, Ultra Mentality out there, hearing the DK Isle theme, all the DK64 references, like that must have made her heart full, I'm sure. And for me, like, just something so simple as, there's the Returns Retro Studios Treehouse. There are the mine carts from the game. There is Funky's surfboard. There's mole miner hats. I couldn't believe that. At first, when I saw them, I was like, no. And then I was like, maybe it's a reference to the original DKC art. But then I was like, wait, that's like a more deep cut reference. But no, there's numerous hard hats around. They're mole miner references. I don't know, it made me happy because for me, like, when I saw that finale, of course, I was like, it didn't bring everything together, but I was kind of like, where could a retro reference be? But I understand, like, I was fine with it. But seeing it here, Returns and Tropical Freeze, those are the most recent games, and those were in the public for a while. Returns was huge, so, there's no real need to redesign the treehouse. There's no real need to redesign the minecart. Those are the things. So, I don't know, it made me happy. And as a co-host, Conversation co-host infamously said that Retro's games, had nothing worth mentioning at one point. It just is just great to see. So I don't really have a grand thesis, but it's great. And I can't wait until we get the inevitable Professor Chops and Squidicus statues. See ya.
Well, thank you for the call, Traveler of the Stars. I'm glad Retro Studios got some references on DKI. I'm glad it wasn't a complete dismissal, because, it deserves to have its place there among the iconography. And that's been my biggest thing. My biggest gripe about the retro stuff wasn't that it introduced a whole lot of new stuff. It was that it just didn't blend it with the old stuff as much as I would have liked. I want to see all the eras stand alongside each other as one cohesive whole.
Yeah, and it's what we talk about where this game really does pull for everyone. This was their way of reaching out to every single Donkey Kong fan, regardless what your entrance was, and go, one way or another, we see you, you're part of this.
Yeah.
Like, it's all one big happy ape family. Even the little Donkey Konga people over there in the corner going ba-ba-ba-ba-ba on their drums.
Right. Yeah, even harmonized the arcade era in a way that felt very authentic and true that the series has struggled with ever since Donkey Kong Country.
It has. And something that crosses my mind, because they mentioned, there is stuff for Returns and Tropical Freeze in there, but it's not super prominent. I wonder how much of that has to do with the fact that Nintendo thought, okay, well, if people get Bananza and they really love it, if this is their first Donkey Kong game, they may go, I want to play more. And, well, what are the two most accessible ones on the Switch? You can go get Returns and Tropical Freeze. So you can get bathed in the Retro Studios vibe through that. And maybe I'm thinking too businessy about it.
No. I think it's apparent, like, the theme park is an entry point for a lot of people. That's why they released Returns HD earlier this year. That was earlier this year. That feels like half a decade ago at this point. But
it's really does.
Yeah. So I think it was important, though, for Bananza to bring back so much that has been left by the wayside, because then, it's going to be a foundation to build on in the future and to bring some of that stuff forward, but also then reintegrate even more stuff to come. And it'll be really interesting to see how they do Donkey Kong Country when we get another 2D Donkey Kong game.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, thank you for the call. All right, let's play our third call.
Hello, Kongversation. This is TJ. Calling in to talk about the Squawks Land. Yes, DK Island got added to the game, and it brought with it Squawks, and he's excellent. You get to see multiple instances of him all around the island, not just the one primary one that runs the shop. And so not only is he added to this new bonus location for the game, but also retroactively, we've had a Squawks placed in every previous layer, so you get to see him everywhere you go. You guys know I'm a huge Squawks fan. I love that they did this. This is excellent fan service. And, yeah, exploring DK Island, talking about that a little more. Honestly, it felt like a cool idea given how Mario Odyssey ends and provides you the Mushroom Kingdom run around. Something about Bananza's destruction mechanic, I didn't think it would sit right with me running around and destroying DK's home. I didn't envision myself having fun with it, but once it actually came, I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm glad they did this. It's fun. I love running around DK Island, even though, like I said, you get to destroy DK's home and destroy that iconic Donkey Kong head-shaped island. But it's a lot of fun. I'm happy Squawks is in the game. And, yeah, it's a great content update for me, personally. So, yeah, thank you for taking the call.
Well, thank you, TJ, our noted Squawks fanatic who calls in. And I'm glad you feel like you got your money's worth with Squawks content.
$20 a squawk.
Yeah, $1 for every Squawks that appears.
Oh, that's true. There you go. See, that's worth its weight.
All right.
I really. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say I just love that we have spent so little time leaning on the cost of this, because while that is definitely a contentious point that people will bring up, it's nice that we can celebrate what this is and not have to gate it behind. But was it worth $20? Should you spend the $20? Because that's tough.
Here's the thing. I feel like that's always just rage bait. And
yeah,
if I'm going to talk about anything on the Kongversation, generally speaking, I want it to be joyous. I want it to be a celebration of what we love, or I'm going to try not to bring it up. And I think the only time I've had to really eschew from that philosophy is like talking about, oh no, there have been layoffs at Platonic. There have been layoffs at Rare. This sucks, but we have to talk about it. But generally speaking, if something really aggravates me, I don't like dwelling on it all that much. I don't think it makes for fun, enjoyable, uplifting experiences. I know some people just get off on being angry all the time. That's not the type of content I really want to put out there. So even if I did have a problem with the price, I wouldn't really be harping on that all that much.
Yeah, well, because that's the thing is there's so many games out there. There's so many experiences to be had that, you know, I rather take the time to talk about where we derive the joy from those things.
Yeah.
Okay, it was worth it alone. The admission price of just sitting on DK Island. It's those things that I want to get excited about carvings in the rocks, or
right.
You know, looking up and going, is that bird purple?
Yeah.
You know, it's what, you know, I mean, it's a lot of what draws me to this show and what has made me a listener for so long is the attention to excitement for all these little corners of the Donkey Kong universe.
Life is so short and there's so much misery that we have to wade through that, like, this is a hobby at the end of the day. This is escapism. Don't let it upset you. Try not to let it upset you. It's not worth it.
Exactly. You hear that, everybody? Go have fun. That's a threat.
Well, on the topic of threats, we have one more call I want to play. Let's go ahead and take that call.
Hey everyone, it's me, your good old pal, Professor Chops. Thank you for all the love and support I got after my recent calls. Claire, Alter Mentality Courtney, Just Andre, and Buddy the Bear specifically asked me to call in again, and your love and support truly means the world. And, of course, you too, Hyle. I do have to say, though, why'd you dox me? Was it something I said? Don't tell me. Was something bad in the DK Wild hot dog? I assure you, every part of myself I put in that hot dog was grade A quality. Just like my tips and Super Kong advice. Speaking of that, while y'all were monkeying down in the mines, me and Super Kong were keeping watch over DK Island. And if anything got out of line, just be sure that Super Kong was ready to punch that moon back out of orbit. so don't you worry. Also, I'm glad to see that Chunky and Lanky are coming back as statues. They're my good friends after all. I mean, who do you think's related to my cousin Trough? That's right, it's good pal Professor Chops. So just remember, like I said last time, when you don't see me off screen, I'm always there. Part of me, always lurking. Doesn't that make you feel better at night? Anyways, take care.
Well, thank you, Professor Chops, one last time this season. Professor Chops, everyone.
Little round of applause.
All right, final thoughts, Miles. Oh, God, I said I was going to get you out of here quick for your birthday, and here we are, bordering
Oh,
close
you're good? We're on a great schedule right now.
Bordering close to 4 hours. God, brevity. I want to bring brevity back to the conversation. What happened here? It used to be.
I don't know. They released the biggest Donkey Kong game ever made.
I guess it used to be a joke. Oh no, 4-hour episodes, and now we're just blowing past 4 hours, and 5-hour episodes are becoming the norm. 5.5-hour episodes. It's disgusting. I can't keep up this pace. I'm becoming frail and withered like Cranky Kong.
You're going to start breaking the fourth wall at some point.
Broke lots of things in this game and in this DLC, and I think it is a fun, well-realized playground and hangout spot for hardcore Donkey Kong fans. It's the type of faithful, loving tribute like I never expected we would actually get for the Donkey Kong series, but I always held out hope that somehow, some way, someday, we would actually get it, and oh my god, we actually got it. And look, again, $19.99, is it worth the price tag? It depends. Are you one of us? Are you a freak? Are you a deviant who's willing to look around at the various little carvings in the sand and try to figure out how all the islets mesh with previous locations in Donkey Kong games? If that's you, then yes, absolutely, this is worth it. The amount of joy I got from just that before I even touched Emerald Rush, like, this was a bargain price. And I like to say, I would spend $200 if Donkey Kong would punch me in the testicles. I would be willing to do that because that's how devoted I am to Donkey Kong. So I'm probably the wrong person to ask on this subject, but it made me laugh because I did see a comment. I was doing a little bit of research for this episode, and I saw a comment on a news site in a news article saying that the only people who might get full value out of the DK Island DLC are the folks at DK Vine. So, yeah, guilty, I guess.
Correct.
Yeah. We did. Yeah, we love it. Thank you. Thank you. Something for us, finally. But,
because I always want to push back on the, well, give it a chance. Like, you can't just put it in a hole. How can you just say that those are the guys who are going to love it? Although I am one of those guys. So, I'm only reinforcing that point, I guess.
It's okay.
I'm part of the market that they're pointing at.
It's okay for Donkey Kong fans to get Donkey Kong things. It is allowed.
Yeah.
Let go.
Shockingly.
Yeah. And like I said, most of the value is derived from Emerald Rush, which is a really fun mode. And that's an entirely different topic for a different day. We will get to it before the end of Season 13, I promise. But yeah, all in all, this is probably my favorite 3D hangout in a video game. Ever on any platform. This is amazing. I've longed for this my entire Donkey Kong loving life.
And it was worth the wait. Especially with the feeling that, this isn't an ending. This is a start. So
it is just a new beginning that embraces everything that has come before. And on that topic, really quick, did the Fractones restore the face on DK Island? Hear me out here. Okay, so I know on the map screen, on the teleport map screen, you can see the face on DK Island, and you've seen it since the game has launched. And I know if you install the DLC before you beat the game, you go to Racing Layer, Squawks can flash you back to DK Island. It's remembering DK Island. But I posit to you this. What if that is not a literal recreation of Donkey Kong's memories? What if that is an idealized vision of Donkey Kong Island. And in Donkey Kong's Heart of Hearts, he's longing for that face to be restored to Donkey Kong Island. We know the face was not there in 2010 when Donkey Kong Country Returns took place, and we didn't see it again in Tropical Freeze. However, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate 2018, King K. Rool's Final Smash, boom, blew the face off DK Island with the Blast-O-Matic. That is canon, folks. Stop trying to argue that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate isn't canon just because King K. Rool was stuck in the sinkhole in the Forbidden Layer and put to sleep. No, it all happened. Now, is there some sort of time machinations going on with the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? Yes, we don't know when that King K. Rool is from, but I think it did happen. That Final Smash does canonically take place in 2009. Blew the face right off. The island has been Sans face since then. So how's the face back? Did they restore it? Well, it looks pretty old. It looks like there's some moss and some growth on there. So it's clearly been recreated, restored with some care. Who is capable of doing that? Well, who resets the terrain in the underground world? It would have to be the masters of rock and all other materials, the Fractones. Who are living on DK Island right now? The Fractones. So I ask you this, does it seem so out of line that the Fractones could not have restored the face as a present for Donkey Kong, their savior, their hero, the one who has brought back peace to their homeland and beyond? Yes, they restored the face of DK Island because they knew that's what Donkey Kong wanted, because he fantasized about it in Racing Layer, and they overheard, they hear it all, and they did it for him.
You astound me.
I don't have any friends.
This has been a File 2 production.
Que rico.